Because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster on this amazingly packed political day and all across the UK. Coming up on the show today...
We want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments.
Here we go, another U-turn after a nationwide backlash from 10 million pensioners, a hammering at the local elections. Today, Keir Starmer hinted at a dramatic U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Sensible or desperate? I'll speak to ministers, MPs and pensioners to ask them, will it be enough to resurrect the Labour Party's fortunes? And also on the show today...
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Yes, this afternoon, Donald Trump welcomes the South African president to the White House in what could be the most dramatic visit since that Volodymyr Zelensky car crash. Why? Well, as you just heard, Donald Trump has accused the South African regime of being complicit in a genocide against white farmers. Stay tuned. We'll be live from DC in time for kickoff. And meanwhile, will the government U-turn on this policy?
The way to make it work is to smash the gangs that are running the vile trade. Well,
there's around 800 migrants have crossed the Channel into the UK this morning, a daily record for the year to date. We'll also bring you yet more astonishing footage from our man Mark White to show Britain is literally being milked dry. And in a gear change, is this a really bad idea? Well, a £2 million inclusive traffic roundabout, which puts cyclists and pedestrians first, is so confusing that the local county council have published a tutorial of how to use it. And guess what? It's on an industrial estate where nobody even cycles. That's all coming up in your next hour. The stench of hypocrisy wafted over Westminster today. It was incredible to hear of a U-turn from the Labour Party who'd said all along they dug in time and time again, despite a backlash from 10 million pensioners, despite a backlash and a battering from the electorate at the local elections, a backbench rebellion from their own party. There was a hint of a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Farmers added to the list of pensioners this week. Fishermen, savers also up for having their bank accounts raided by Angela Rayner. They're calling her now Angela Raider. Is this a government which seems completely out of touch with the electorate? Or actually, is this a sensible government listening to the electorate, changing their policy to try and repair the damage caused? What do you think? Would you change your mind about Labour Party's stance on the winter fuel allowance if Labour do a U-turn, or is it too little, too late? Get in touch usual ways. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do it. But without any further ado, it's your headlines, and here's Katie Byrne.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. It's 3 minutes past 3, your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has signalled a major U-turn on winter fuel payments for pensioners. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs the government is now reassessing the cuts it made last year after fierce backlash and poor local election results. He says he wants more pensioners to qualify for the allowance, calling it a key cost of living support. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch challenged him directly in Prime Minister's questions, demanding answers on whether a reversal is really coming.
We're heading for new tax rises. We know inflation is up. It's just more and more bad news from a Prime Minister who has lost control. Let's try and get some more information. I'm going to ask him a simple question. It only requires one word, yes or no. Is he planning to U-turn on winter fuel cuts?
Well, more than 9 million pensioners lost out on payments after Chancellor Rachel Reeves tightened eligibility last year. The Prime Minister confirmed changes are being considered, including raising the eligibility threshold.
As the economy improves, we want to take measures that will impact on people's lives, and therefore we will look at the threshold, but that will have to be part of a fiscal event.
Elsewhere, GB News can exclusively reveal that more than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far. That total smashes the previous one-day record for the year, where 705 migrants made the illegal journey on the 15th of April. It takes the total for the year to more than 13,300. That comes as 2 migrants died off the northern coast of France overnight while trying to cross the English Channel into Britain. And a breaking update this afternoon, Britain and its allies, including the United States, have issued an advisory warning of a Russian state-sponsored cyber campaign. A statement from the Director of Operations at Britain's National Cyber Security Centre said that, quote, this malicious campaign by Russia's military intelligence service presents a serious risk to targeted organisations, including those involved in the delivery of assistance to Ukraine. The Cyber Security Centre issued the advisory to both public and private organisations, alongside several other European countries as well as the US. UK inflation has jumped to 3.5%, the highest level since January, after a wave of April price hikes on energy, water, council tax and broadband. Chancellor Rachel Reeves admitted her policies have consequences, but defended tax hikes and spending decisions, saying they're vital to stabilising the economy. She said money raised from national insurance and non-dom reforms is now cutting NHS waiting times. But the Shadow Chancellor says Labour's damaging tax rises are pushing up prices and hitting families hard. Economists warn the Bank of England may now slow down future interest rate cuts. Britain has pledged £4 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza today as Minister for Development Jenny Chapman visits the region. The latest development comes as the UK suspended trade talks with Israel and imposed sanctions on West Bank settlers as tensions rise with Netanyahu's government. Foreign Secretary David Lammy condemned Israel's renewed offensive in Gaza and called the 11-week aid blockade cruel and indefensible. Israel's ambassador has been summoned to the Foreign Office for urgent talks. And Gary Lineker's podcast, The Rest is Football, is being pulled from BBC Sounds, the latest fallout from an anti-Semitism row that's ended his decades-long career at the corporation. The BBC says no new episodes will appear on its platform after this week, following Lineker's decision to step back. It comes after he shared a post featuring a rat and a message about Zionism, something he's apologised for, saying he didn't see the image and would never consciously repost anything anti-Semitic. He'll now leave Match of the Day, FA Cup and World Cup coverage for good after Sunday. The show, made by his own company, will continue elsewhere. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin in Westminster.
Thank you, Katie. Now, has Sir Keir Starmer been forced into an embarrassing, howling U-turn? Well, at Prime Minister's questions earlier today, he all but confirmed that he will be reversing its cuts to the winter fuel payment.
I recognise that people are still feeling the pressure of the cost of living crisis, including pensioners. And as the economy improves, we want to make sure people feel those improvements in their days as their lives go forward. And that is why we want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments. As you would expect, Mr. Speaker, we will only make decisions we can afford. That is why we will look at that as part of a fiscal event.
Well, I mean, howls of derision from the opposition. I've got to say, gasps of disbelief from the electorate. And it looked like total astonishment from his own ministers. Did they even know this was coming? Another day in Westminster. And I'm joined in the studio by our political editor, Christopher Hope, and GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Chris, let's start with you. It just seems to me utterly incredulous that the Labour Party ever even put this in position as a policy in the first place. They campaigned against it. The Prime Minister did, the Deputy did, the Chancellor did, Ed Miliband banded, almost lock, stock and two smoking guns. They campaigned against doing this, but they did it. They were annihilated by millions of pensioners. The backlash on the doorstep cost them hugely in the local elections, possibly even cost them Runcorn, the 16th safest seat. And now, finally, it appears that the Prime Minister is listening. I put it to you, this feels like a government that's leading and governing by spreadsheets, by fiscal rules, and they seem completely out of touch with the electorate. Today, reality bit.
Yes, Martin, great to see you in the studio. I mean, Yvette Cooper, looking at those people alongside Sir Keir Starmer, looked like she was trying to sort of swallow a wasp or something. Like, not quite clear what we were hearing, because it certainly was not expected. Now, there were reports last week in the I newspaper by Kitty Donaldson, a respected political journalist there, that they were going to rethink this. We asked Sir Keir Starmer in Albania when I was with him on Friday about this. He said then, we took difficult decisions, but the right ones at the budget, including the one on winter fuel. As a result of those decisions, we have stabilised the economy. So he talked about what happened in the past tense a year ago, not where we are now. And it was very clear that there was some chat going on, but no one thought they were going to announce it today, least of all Kemi Badenoch, who was apparently a bit taken by surprise by it, and then asked the same question about the winter fuel allowance, despite the announcement by Sir Keir Starmer. The question now is, what's going to happen? We're told it will be changed at the fiscal event. That's October or November. By then, winter's nearly upon us. Is that too late? Will they do it in July outside of a fiscal event like last year? And what will they do? Will they increase the threshold from £11,809 to maybe £15,000? How many more will benefit on the pensioner side? Or will they drop it altogether? And if they only fiddle with it a bit, where's the political benefit? And also, finally, by including more people in the benefit system, you may end up costing you more than when it was a universal benefit for everybody, because there's a gateway benefit, Martin, to other benefits too.
But a lot of people said from the very, very beginning that the amount of money being saved by getting rid of the winter fuel allowance was really a fiscal rounding error in the grand scheme of things. They gave away a multiple
1.4 billion from memory.
Yeah, 1.4 billion. They gave away like 9 billion to public sector pay rises. You know, this was a clear statement of priorities. It was a clear political choice, and it's one that spectacularly backfired. Now, the big question is, and I've got an expert on later on who will tell me more about this, in terms of the voting intent. Will it shift the dial? Because nothing seems to have shifted the dial thus far. The India deal, the UK-USA deal, the Brexit reset, call it what you want. The polling is one direction for the Labour Party, and it's going off the edge of a cliff. Will people fall for this? Will they believe the Labour Party, or does it seem like a desperate government trying to shore up falling ratings?
Probably a bit of the latter. I think that what's happened since last July is they've had a difficult summer. They've done these spending choices they made in the budget. They've done some spending announcements earlier this year. But the Runcorn by-election happened. A 14,000 majority lost to the Reform by just 4 votes. They lost 2/3 of their seats in May the first local elections. Only 99 councillors returned. They are responding, I think, to fury on the doorstep. And will this make any difference? I'm not sure fiddling with it works. I think reversing it is how you start to put this jack-in-the-box back in the box. Nigel Nelson, you are one of the many people from the political left that was abhorred by this decision from the very outset. Let's be absolutely clear on that. Now, the political left and the political right seem to join on this. It was only the Prime Minister and his cabinet in the middle. And by the way, let's not forget that every single Labour Party MP was whipped to either vote against the winter fuel allowance or abstain. So before we start to get too revisionist in the future, they all seemed very much for it when it came out. I digress. Is this too little, too late? And, and is this a sign of a government that's not leading at all by instinct, but they're leading by spreadsheet, by advisors, and it's completely tin-eared?
Well, I think it's a reaction. I think for all the various things that Chris has talked about, the way that Reform has captured 10 councils, the loss of the Runcorn by-election, each place people were talking about the winter fuel allowance as being the important thing. What was odd about this is that Keir Starmer announced it today without any indication of how it's going to be done. So the Number 10 briefed journalists afterwards. It was a rather ill-tempered briefing, and they Number 10 denied that there was any change only a few weeks ago. So they were briefing journalists but had no answers. So
was there any detail at all about the kind of things that Chris mentioned?
No,
who gets what? When do they get it? Nothing.
No. So what we've got is that it will be announced in a fiscal event. The obvious fiscal event for that is the budget. If it comes in the budget, that's too late for this winter. If you remember when it was introduced last year, it was introduced before the budget for that very reason. So if they do it in the budget, it's too late. The spending review comes up next month, which is a big look at all government spending. Number 10 say, no, that's not the fiscal event it'll be in, which is a kind of mysterious fiscal event somewhere in between, is what they seem to be suggesting. Then the next stage is who will benefit. So at the moment, it's very easy to work out which pensioners can have it because they'll be on pension credit or benefits, which means the DWP have got all the records they need. If you decide to bring it into pensioners are being taxed, it becomes much more complicated.
And they always said it's too complex to do it. This is the point. They always said they couldn't do this.
Precisely.
Now they're doing it.
Well, let's now speak to the Business of Finance broadcaster Michael Wilson. Michael, you've no doubt been listening in aghast. As the rest of us have really, it just seems that it's a chaotic announcement. There's no detail. There's no indication of how it will work. We were told repeatedly, time and time again, it'd be too complex, too bureaucratic, too expensive to make this means tested. And yet here we are. There seems to be policy on the hoof. Are you as confused as we are?
Yeah, certainly. You've talked about the politics of it. I mean, the question is, we still don't know the detail of this. Will it be universal? Will it be targeted? And so on. Your guests have already asked that question. I suppose much bigger brains than mine would eventually ask themselves, well, why is it affordable now? Where's that gap gone that this was supposed to fill? That seems to me the crucial question. It is a U-turn. There is no question about it. And coming on top of those inflation figures, which will be not good news for this government. Now, let's just get clear what inflation figures are. This is the rate of the rise of prices. It's only a monthly figure. However, my bigger-than-me financial friends in the city are now saying bets are all off as far as a reduction in interest rates are concerned. We might see the base rate get to 4% by the end of the year, but it's not at all certain. Bets are certainly slightly wavering about that because inflation looks fairly stubborn. So what are these figures? Why are the inflation figures important? I would suggest nobody really in the real world cares about the inflation figures. What they care about is the rising cost of living. You knock on any door, and that's clearly what's happened here, isn't it? I mean, your political experts will no doubt underline this. People knocked on the door during the Wales by-election, and the winter fuel allowance was one of the key issues. I'm sure the rising cost of living is. Now, what's worrying about these inflation figures, not just the headline, I'm sorry to bore you with the detail of this, but there's something called core inflation. That's really important too. That is up massively, and that includes things like broadband, telephones, utility bills, which have gone up absolutely hugely, and also not included in that figure, but worth mentioning, of course, as every shopper knows, food inflation has risen too. So I would suggest that the pips are really being squeezed right now, like never before. But I think that's the key question. Why is this U-turn, however it's decided, whether it be universal or targeted, why is it suddenly affordable now?
Well, I think you've nailed it there, Michael Wilson, and I suspect, call me Mystic Meg, I suspect they'll say, hey, these amazing trade deals we're doing with India, with the United States, the Brexit reset, we've suddenly found this pot of gold down the back of the sofa at Downing Street, we can revisit what we did the winter fuel allowance. Call me Mystic Meg, what do you reckon?
What I think is this, that the EU trade deal has actually given us no voting rights over some of the most important parts of our economy, which is food and farming. They are really, really important as far as the economy is concerned. Not necessarily a huge part of the workforce, but my goodness, when those prices start to rise, shoppers start to complain, and the person in the street starts to complain about that. And we have no voting rights over those whatsoever. The detail of this is very, very difficult to, as that boring debate yesterday in the House of Commons underlined. Nobody, I don't think, really understands this. What trade talks are is like a long, slow death. That's how it's been described to me in the past, and that's what they are. The detail is quite extraordinary, and we haven't heard that yet. Will we benefit from these trade talks? I don't know. Maybe in 6 months, maybe in 9 months. I would suspect, and again, I'm not talking as a politician, I'm talking as a business commentator, and I would say I think that's probably too late.
Yeah, I think you're right, and all of this will start to bite when the mercury starts to plummet. And will this fuel allowance even get into pockets in time? I suspect not. Michael Wilson, excellent guest. Please come back on. You didn't bore me with the detail at all. I love it. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now back to the studio. Chris Hope, some sad news. A legendary political commentator, Patrick O'Flynn, sadly passed away.
Well known to our viewers and listeners, Patrick O'Flynn, 59, died yesterday. He'd been diagnosed, we understand, with stage 4 liver cancer and given just weeks to live. He's felt suddenly ill, went to the doctors. I know Nigel Nelson knew him like I did very well from the House of Commons lobby.
Paddy was an old friend of mine. We've known each other for 20 years. And the last time I saw him was at GBNews, and that was only a few months ago.
And he looked really, really well.
He looked fit and healthy.
In fact, he sat where you sat, and I said to him, Pat, you look really, really well. How are you doing, mate? Oh, thank you. He said he was on his toes.
There's been tributes across the board. Nigel Farrell says he's a great journalist, a great thinker, a great patriot, a titan of our cause. Don't forget, he was a UKIP MEP 2014-2019. Boris Johnson, a hugely original journalist who grasped the causes of the current discontent. Kemi Badenoch giving praise. Robert Jenrick. But in the House of Commons today, Richard Tice said this about him to all MPs.
I put on record of the House, with your permission, the sad passing yesterday of Patrick O'Flynn, a journalist, a political journalist, well known to many honourable members of this House. He died after a short battle with cancer. He was a lobby journalist for some 20 years, spending many, many days, weeks and months in the press gallery above. He will be much missed, and can I pass on the condolences of all honourable members to his wife, Carol Ann, and his 2 children.
Can I say I'm grateful to the honourable member for his point of order. Patrick was a long-serving and well-respected member of the lobby. I'm sure the whole House will wish to join me in sending our condolences to his family for somebody who was taken so young.
Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle there saying correctly, a great man taking so long. We miss Patrick O'Flynn and we send our love and best wishes to his family.
Yeah, that comes from all of us here at GB News and all of our viewers to Patrick O'Flynn. Rest in peace. Thank you. Thank you, Chris Hope and Nigel Nelson. Now, coming up, over 800 immigrants have crossed the Channel today into the UK to mark a new daily record for the year, and we'll bring you some shocking exclusive footage next from our man Mark White. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, and we have some breaking news for you now, and it's this. Tommy Robinson, of course, his real name, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against two men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Service has just said. Now, if you recall, yesterday the news was that Mr Yaxley Lennon could be released early. This undoubtedly will have an impact on that. We don't know the details of that yet. But just to repeat the breaking news line, Tommy Robinson, real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon, has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against two men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Service has said. Now to another sensational Mark White exclusive, and more than 800 small boats migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far, and this total smashes the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on April the 15th. And let's speak now with GB News' home and security editor Mark White, as well as this story. Mark, you have yet more incredible video footage for us. Tell us more.
Yeah, we'll get to that video in a second, Martin, but the latest total for those crossing the Channel today is 828, all counted as they came off the boats by our trusty producer down in Dover, Chris, who tells us that, of course, this is a record day by a long shot. 705, as you mentioned there, was the last record day on the 15th of April. And really, I think to be getting such very significant numbers this early in the year is very significant and points to what we're seeing there from these latest videos that we've obtained. Are many thousands of people now heading towards the coast of northern France with a view to getting over on the small boats to the UK. Now, it's significant this week because we've had a week of bad weather. You can see the imagery there with that ninja popping up there as an emoji. The ninja is relevant because that is what the people smugglers use as their emoji. Basically, it shows you that's a people smugglers video. You can see one of the small boats there in the dunes having been blown up, being prepared to be carried down to the sea itself. And as I say, we got 3 days of good weather. before we then hit another sort of bad spell of about a week or so of bad weather. So that's why we're seeing very significant numbers now, taking advantage of 3 days of good weather to get as many people across the channel as possible. And of course, it comes just hours after the confirmation that 2 migrants died trying to make the journey overnight into this morning. I want to just show you some other footage we have now that relates to one particular migrant. This is the chap here. He is a Somali who left Somalia and has made his way to the UK. And he's basically detailed his journey there. You can see it on the screen where he talks about leaving Somalia and going effectively to Eritrea, Benin, a number of other African countries before going to North Africa and eventually to Libya. And then in Libya, he takes one of those dilapidated fishing boats across the Mediterranean to Italy, probably one of the islands like Lampedusa. In Italy, he then makes his way to Switzerland, from Switzerland across to France, and in France, he gets on a small boat. Let's take a look at this bit of video. There with accompanying music is our Somali migrant on that small boat, making his way to the UK. Does he make it? Yes, he does. Here is him and a friend outside his new hotel. Looking very happy to be here as well. But I think the thing that's important in illustrating the story of this one particular migrant is it shows you the number of countries, so many different countries this migrant passed through on his way from Somalia to the UK. Not one of those countries was this young man stopped, detained, turned back. He just continued through country after country after country until he got to the northern coast of France and onto that small boat.
Mark White, people watching this will probably be as incredulous as I was. I mean, I almost headbutted the desk then. This is just getting absurd now. You keep sending us these videos, you keep getting hold of them. There's a multitude of evidence that we are being mugged off. The British taxpayer is footing the bill, country after country after country, simply allowing these people to waltz through, getting to the channel, coming in, and then there they are, happy as Larry, in a four-star hotel, making videos and simply gloating at the British taxpayer who's paying for all this. It's absolutely sickening, and the politicians keep talking tough. Mark White, they're not listening.
Well, you know, Sir Keir Starmer is at pains to tell us very often about the international effort that's required to stop people smuggling. And he's right. And, you know, he's trying to sign deals with many countries around the globe to help. But I think, you know, the evidence is clear for people to see. Whatever they say they're doing, they are not doing it as effectively as they should be, because thousands upon thousands of migrants are making those journeys from Africa and from Asia and from other parts of the world with a view to getting across to Northern Europe, to those rich industrialised countries in Northern Europe, and many of them, as we know, want to get across the English Channel to the UK.
And Mark White, once again, your videos show that pull factor, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Welcome to Hotel Britannia. Mark White, astonishing stuff. Thank you once again for giving it to us here on GB News. Back to studio, a quick bit of reaction. Nigel Nelson, you were watching that yourself with your jaw agape. This is the country being ravaged by opportunistic people. We're being told that there's a tough response. Nothing is stopping. Today's a record day, and it's simply getting worse.
Well, and it will get worse over the summer because of the weather, which is the big pull factor. I mean, I think that we're making progress, but it's very slow. So, well, I mean, as an example, with the new EU deal that we've got, we now have access to facial recognition in Europe, which we didn't have before. When I say before Brexit.
How would that stop him getting through 8 countries before he gets the blighty?
Well, it wouldn't stop him from getting through. What I'm saying is that there are other people there. If you're trying to weed out terrorists and criminals, there's a chance that the facial recognition would help.
Well, the 3 Iranians
in this guy's case,
terrorism offences who came in on dinghies and lorries, they weren't stopped.
No, I know, but we haven't got the facial recognition yet. This is
Do you honestly think that's going to make a toot-cahoots bit of difference?
I don't know, but it's a start in the right direction, in the same way as going for the people smuggling gangs, in the same way we're trying to negotiate returns deals with European countries that we lost because of Brexit.
This is the conversation on an endless loop. It's Groundhog Day. We have it week after week after week. The evidence is getting worse. Today is a record low day for Keir Starmer. He can't smash the gangs any more than Rishi Sunak could stop the boats, any more than King Canute could stop the tide, any more than I can flap my arms and fly to the moon. Let's be honest, nobody in any political party seems to have any solution to this, Chris.
Well, the offering from Reform UK parties will tow them back to France when they think they can do that under some law which other parties haven't yet seen. So, I mean, Reform may offer some solutions. Some will say they can't even deliver that either. I would say, though, one thing, why didn't Keir Starmer use the returns agreement with the European Union as a line in the renegotiation of that deal on Monday? That may have been given a much better political dividend from this drama.
Well, I'll tell you why. You didn't want to offend Emmanuel Macron. Gentlemen, we have to leave it there and move on. Incredible footage, incredible stuff. I wonder what you feel about that at home. Please let me know, and please, no expletives. There's more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including we're going to be in Bilbao in Spain and that all-important Europa League final between Manchester United and Spurs, which some are calling El Sacchio. Either way, it's going to be a full English. And here are your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. Your top stories this hour. And a breaking update this afternoon. Tommy Robinson has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Service has said. The CPS say that they've authorised the Metropolitan Police to charge Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who's 42, with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men. He'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 5th of June. We'll bring you more on that developing story as we get it. Elsewhere, the Prime Minister has signalled a major U-turn on winter fuel payments for pensioners. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs that the government is now reassessing the cuts it made last year after fierce backlash and poor local election results. He says he wants more pensioners to qualify for the allowance, calling it a key cost of living support. Well, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has been reacting to the announcement this afternoon, saying the Prime Minister is feeling political pressure.
Well, it was inevitable. We knew this was a bad decision right from the get-go. We told the Prime Minister that in July. Conservatives have been telling him we kept the winter fuel payment for 14 years. How is it that he is letting it go? It's making pensioners vulnerable, facing a lot of hardship, and now it looks like he is U-turning, but we don't know the details. Why is he doing this now? It's because he's feeling political pressure. He should have listened to all of those elderly people and pensioners who were on the winter fuel payment who told him this was a cruel decision.
GBNews can exclusively reveal that more than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far. That total breaks the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on the 15th of April. It takes the total for the year so far to more than 13,300. That comes as 2 migrants died off the northern coast of France overnight while trying to cross the English Channel into Britain. And another developing story, Britain and its allies, including the United States, have issued an advisory warning of a Russian state-sponsored cyber campaign. A statement from the Director of Operations at Britain's National Cybersecurity Centre said that, quote, this malicious campaign by Russia's military intelligence service presents a serious risk to targeted organisations, including those involved in the delivery of assistance to Ukraine. The Cybersecurity Centre issued the advisory to both public and private organisations, alongside several other European countries as well as the US. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3437 and €1.1848. The price of gold is £2,454.94 per ounce. The FTSE 100's at 8,791 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is looking fine for many of us, we do have some very wet weather to come this weekend. Before all that, we do still have some hefty showers across southern parts at the moment. The feature that brought some of the earlier rain has now pushed away towards the south, but nonetheless, there are still some fairly frequent showers to watch out for as we go through into this evening. Some could be heavy across southern areas. Otherwise, it's looking largely dry as we go overnight, but a relatively weak cold front is pushing its way southwards. That's going to bring a swathe of more cloud across particularly eastern parts, and some outbreaks of rain likely to be mixed in with this. Away from that cloudier zone, some clearer skies allowing for things to turn a bit fresh. Could see some pockets of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a touch of frost in some parts of Scotland. But starting off then tomorrow, a bright sunny picture for much of the south, a different theme from what we woke up to this morning. Across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud and a little bit of rain here, a bit more cloud as well across Northern Ireland compared to this morning. But for much of northern England and large chunks of Scotland, a generally fine start to the day, albeit a few showers possible towards Aberdeenshire, which are going to be brought down on a bit of a brisker northerly wind. Then as we go through the day, the cloudier zone across some central eastern parts shifts a little bit further southwards, so skies in the south perhaps turning a bit more grey as we go into the afternoon, and a few showers may bubble up as well. Elsewhere, lots of fine weather on offer again, but with fresher air feeding its way in, temperatures are going to be down quite a few degrees compared to today. More fine weather for many of us as we go through tomorrow evening, just towards the south, a bit more cloud lingering here, but even that's going to clear away as we go overnight and into Friday. Then Friday's looking like a fine day for many of us, but some rain is then going to push in later on, and that does bring a rather wet and blustery weekend for most. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A977 at Gartery roundabout faces restrictions due to a shed load, urging road users to approach cautiously. On the A470 southbound from Pontypridd to Upper Boat, planned maintenance has resulted in a complete road closure, with diversions in place. In Staffordshire, the A449 southbound between the A5 and the M54 experiences full-lane closures due to a load spillage, expected to clear by 5:45 this evening. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report major disruptions between Runcorn, Warrington Bank Quay and Crewe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time is 3:41. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur face off in the Europa League tonight in the final, in the biggest game of their seasons. We're on the ground live in Bilbao. We speak now with the Spurs fan, Ella Austin, who's there in Bilbao. Ella, you must be very, very excited. I'm a Forest fan myself, so I'm not at all jealous, but I'm hoping that we can try and break through into Europe next season. I
wouldn't be jealous either.
Yeah, do you fancy your chances tonight?
I do fancy our chances. I think it's been 17 years and I think it's about time. So I really do think if we put out the bag tonight, we can definitely get the result we want.
See, football's all about timing. You haven't won a piece of silverware yourself since 2008, but you are facing a Manchester United. Let's face it, they've had a bit of a naff season. They're there for the taking. But here's the thing. Have the Manchester United players got more muscle memory, more experience of the big occasion? Might that go against you tonight?
I definitely think that's something to take into consideration. I do think that because, especially with our new squad, we're not necessarily experienced at winning the trophies, but I can definitely say for certain that us Spurs fans are more behind with the trophy than those Man United. So hopefully.
And in terms of the fans, the atmosphere on the ground earlier on, we were hearing there are a lot more Spurs fans there than there were United fans. Can you confirm that? Your fans, at least, are certainly up for it.
100%. I'm outside the fan zone right now. It is buzzing. There are thousands and thousands of fans just chanting and singing. And it really does feel like there is a chance for us to get something from tonight's game. So let's hope.
Now, nobody likes to be Mystic Meg, especially on television, because it could all go wrong. I do it all the time. But Ella, come on, what's your prediction for the score tonight?
I am predicting 3-1 for Tottenham Hotspur. Let's just pray. That's my prediction. I stood by it for weeks, and that is what I'm going to say as my final prediction for tonight. So if we can bring it out, we can bring it out. But you just never know with Spurs.
Well, I hope you got a few quid on that. It must be quite a long price. 3-1, 3-1 to Spurs there. Have you got a few quid on it?
I don't bet on my own team. I think that's bad luck. I'd rather just be at the game and enjoy it as much as I possibly can. The nerves would be very high, but yes.
Now, of course, everyone should gamble responsibly, Ella. And do you know what I do? I'm ashamed to admit I often bet against my own team. Do you know why? If we win, I don't care about losing a few quid. And if we lose, I can drown my sorrows. Again, I say drink and gamble responsibly. Don't be anything like me.
100%. I'm all for hedging, but not tonight. Tonight's not the night to hedge. I think I'm just going to be myself. Come on, you Spurs. You see, we're right outside the fan zone. There's thousands of people walking in and out. So hopefully the fans will bring it tonight and we'll get the result we have been waiting for 17 years for.
Well, look, well done for getting your hands on a ticket. I can tell you're excited. I can't blame you. Try and enjoy it. Sometimes I'm so blooming nervous. I forget to even enjoy the moment. Please have a fantastic match. Love to all the lads and ladies there in the fan zone. Very, very best of British tonight. Whatever happens, an English team is going to win. Now, isn't that something? Nigel Nelson, you've got no interest whatsoever really in football,
I'm afraid not, but I hope Ella gets her wish. That would be nice.
I think it is worth marking the fact that it is an achievement that two English teams are there. Now, the Europa League is seen as like the Conference League of European Cups. That's a bit unfair. If Forest win the weekend at home against Chelsea, we might be in the Europa Cup. And, of course, fans would love to be in it. But, look, all eyes on the final thing. 8 o'clock kickoff tonight. I'll be watching it. It's my mate's birthday. I'll be tuning in. Let's get stuck in. Whatever happens, there's going to be an English winner tonight lifting that silverware in Bilbao. Talking of which, if you're searching some holiday sun this year, then here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some pretty heavy rain affecting some typical holiday hotspots at the moment, for example, across northern France into Italy, Austria, Croatia, as well as many other countries in that area. We're seeing some heavy rain leading to the risk of some flooding, even some intense thunderstorms as well. Further west, a bit drier across many parts of western Spain into Portugal, but some showers affecting the Canary Islands. Even some more changeable weather to come as we head towards the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or GBNews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, we're talking about holidays now and how not to pay too much for them. Because I think the thing is, a lot of people are saying, oh, we're going to go on holidays. And then they look and they say, really, can we afford it?
Yeah.
And if people pushed the boat out last year, they may be finding that this year they just can't do it because it definitely is more expensive. Hayley Sparks joins us in the studio now to tell us the tricks of the trade. And you feel, Hayley, that all is not lost. You think if you shop around, you apply a few tricks, you can do OK for yourself?
Yeah, I definitely love to share some of my tips with the viewers because everybody deserves a holiday, but with the cost of living, we want to kind of see where we can save money. So one of my biggest tips would be to use a travel consultant. They work for you for free, so there's no cost to the consumer. But what I didn't realise till I joined the travel industry is about 60% of the world's holidays are trade only, so you wouldn't find them online. So if you work with a professional, they can help do all the research for you. So some of the hotspots at the moment, Poland, for example, is one of the most affordable European destinations. Other really up-and-coming destinations, you've got places like Albania, Bulgaria, great alternatives to Greece. You've only got to have a look online at the stunning coastlines. And another top tip to consider is a cruise. Now, people often think, wow, cruises, you think luxury, you think, you know, sort of bucket list, but that is not the case. The cruise market is so extensive. So there's great budget entry-level cruise lines, which are fantastic for families. You know what you're paying for. There's no hidden charges. And different brands like MSC, for example, they'll do single-parent discounts.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 10 to 4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, time is running out on your chance to win our biggest Great British giveaway to date. Your chance to drive away with a brand new motorhome worth a whopping 67 grand. And here's the details you need to try and make it yours.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of four, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, good with that, and in what would have been our lead political story of the day, but for that winter fuel allowance U-turn, earlier on today it was announced by the deputy leader, a leak, that there could be a £4 billion raid on people's savings, giving Angela Rayner the somewhat unfortunate name Angela Raider. Let's turn to Nigel Nelson now. Add to the list of the people that the Labour Party seem to be gunning for: first farmers, pensioners, fishermen, people on benefits. Today, the big story would have been this savings raid, and it would have been an easy win at PMQs to go for the fact the Labour Party now is taking the savings of those who've worked hard and put a few quid to one side. But instead, it's barely getting mentioned, but still, it's a huge story.
Yeah, it is a huge story. And in fact, Kemi Badenoch did kick off PMQs by asking about it. What this is a leaked letter from Angela Rayner to the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, where she was suggesting some alternative ways of raising money. This was before the budget, so one assumes she was looking at something like not going for welfare, but what else you could do. So one of the things she wanted to do was to bring back the cap on pension savings. Now they already existed. Jeremy Hunt, when he was he was Chancellor, got rid of them. Labour promised to bring them back, didn't. So at the moment, the savings are unlimited. What Angela Rayner said was, let's tax them after you've reached a pension pot of over £1 million. She also wanted to look at things like companies which buy homes. So at the moment, they do it because you can avoid stamp duty, and she wanted to close that loophole. And another one, which is where companies own homes and they're taxed on them from £4,000 to something like £260,000, and she wanted those taxes raised.
And there's also removing inheritance tax relief on shares, so you can't pass shares on to your kids, and that could raise £1 billion, and it would send that message out again that the Labour Party are a party of anti-aspiration. Loads to talk about in the next hour. Nigel Nelson, please stick with us. Now, in response to reports that Angela Rayner encouraged Rachel Reeves to raise taxes ahead of that spring statement, a government spokesperson told GB News this: "We don't comment on leaks." Well, luckily we do, and it's a huge story that impacts millions of people. Now, plenty more coming up in your next hour, including huge reaction from the Shadow Chancellor over that incredible winter fuel U-turn earlier on in Parliament. Plus, the South African president walked into the White House. Could it royally kick off? Make sure you don't miss it with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's news channel. Now it's time for your weather, and here's Alex Burkill.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is looking fine for many of us, we do have some very wet weather to come this weekend. Before all that, we do still have some hefty showers across southern parts at the moment. The feature that brought some of the earlier rain has now pushed away towards the south, but nonetheless, there are still some fairly frequent showers to watch out for as we go through into this evening. Some could be heavy across southern areas. Otherwise, it's looking largely dry as we go overnight, but a relatively weak cold front is pushing its way southwards. That's going to bring a swathe of more cloud across particularly eastern parts, and some outbreaks of rain likely to be mixed in with this. Away from that cloudier zone, some clearer skies allowing for things to turn a bit fresh. Could see some pockets of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a touch of frost in some parts of Scotland. But starting off then tomorrow, a bright sunny picture for much of the south, a different theme from what we woke up to this morning. Across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud and a little bit of rain here, a bit more cloud as well across Northern Ireland compared to this morning. But for much of northern England and large chunks of Scotland, a generally fine start to the day, albeit a few showers possible towards Aberdeenshire, which are going to be brought down on a bit of a brisk northerly wind. Then as we go through the day, the cloudier zone across some central eastern parts shifts a little bit further southwards, so skies in the south perhaps turning a bit more grey as we go into the afternoon, and a few showers may bubble up as well. Elsewhere, lots of fine weather on offer again, but with fresher air feeding its way in, temperatures are going to be down quite a few degrees compared to today. More fine weather for many of us as we go through tomorrow evening, just towards the south, a bit more cloud lingering here, but even that's going to clear away as we go overnight and into Friday. Then Friday's looking like a fine day for many of us, but some rain is then going to push in later on, and that does bring a rather wet and blustery weekend for most. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Heavy roadworks have closed the M8 eastbound junction 18 exit slip to the A804. Drivers should follow the signed diversion. Planned maintenance has shut the A470 southbound between Pontypridd and Upper Boat, with diversions in place. In Staffordshire, a load spillage closed all lanes on the A449 southbound between the A5 and the M54 junction. On the M1 southbound in Greater London, lane management causes partial closures and delays between Junction 2 and Junction 1. And on the trains, major disruptions affect Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway services between Runcorn, Warrington, Bank Quay and Crewe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain. He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Coming up on the show today...
We want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments.
Astonishing scenes in Parliament earlier because after a nationwide backlash from 10 million pensioners hammering at the local elections, today Sir Keir Starmer hinted at a dramatic U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Is it sensible or is it desperate? I'll speak to ministers, to MPs and to British pensioners themselves to ask them, will this be enough to resurrect the Labour Party's fortunes? And also on the show today...
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Brace yourselves for more political drama because this afternoon Donald Trump welcomes the South African president to the White House in what could be the most dramatic visit since that Volodymyr Zelensky car crash. Why? Well, Trump has accused the South African regime of being complicit in a genocide against white farmers. Stay tuned, we'll be live from DC in time for the big kickoff. And meanwhile, will the government U-turn on this policy?
The way to make it work is to smash the gangs that are running the vile trade.
It's because today 823 illegal immigrants have crossed the channel, a daily record for the year. Plus, we'll bring you more astonishing footage of brazen immigrants, including a Somalian, charting a travelogue all the way through endless countries to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, Britain. And then a gear change. Is this a really bad idea? Look at it, a £2 million inclusive roundabout, which puts cyclists and pedestrians first, is so confusing, the local county council and Hemel Hempstead have had to publish a tutorial of how to use this ridiculous thing. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Well, as U-turns go, this one takes the biscuit. The winter fuel allowance, which became so hated on doorsteps in the May elections, it cost the Labour Party endless councils. It cost them, many are saying, the Runcorn by-election, the 16th safest Labour seat in all of the country. The winter fuel allowance hated on the doorstep. But anybody surely would have known that in advance. Millions of pensioners launched a huge backlash. Even Labour Party backbenchers themselves, unions, nobody seemed to like it. A policy seemingly thought upon the hoof, don't forget, campaigned against by the Labour Party when they themselves were in opposition. The videos haunted the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition then, Sir Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, Ed Miliband, Yvette Cooper, Angela Rayner, all of them, to a man and woman, campaigned against raising the winter fuel allowance, cutting it, beg your pardon, in opposition, and yet they did it in power. Today, reality bit. It seems there could be a dramatic U-turn. What does that mean? I'll be joined by Mel Stride in the studio to discuss that next. Get in touch with your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. But now here's your headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. It's 3 minutes past 4. Your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has signalled a major U-turn on winter fuel payments for pensioners. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs that the government is now reassessing the cuts it made last year after fierce backlash and poor local election results. He says he wants more pensioners to qualify for the allowance, calling it a key cost of living support. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has been reacting to the announcement this afternoon, saying the Prime Minister is feeling political pressure.
Well, it was inevitable. We knew this was a bad decision right from the get-go. We told the Prime Minister that in July. Conservatives have been telling him we kept the winter fuel payment for 14 years. How is it that he is letting it go? It's making pensioners vulnerable, facing a lot of hardship, and now it looks like he is U-turning, but we don't know the details. Why is he doing this now? It's because he's feeling political pressure. He should have listened to all of those elderly people and pensioners who were on the winter fuel payment who told him this was a cruel decision.
Well, more than 9 million pensioners lost out on payments after Chancellor Rachel Reeves tightened eligibility last year. The Prime Minister confirmed changes are being considered, including raising the eligibility threshold.
As the economy improves, we want to take measures that will impact on people's lives, and therefore we will look at the threshold, but that will have to be part of a fiscal event.
A breaking update this afternoon. Tommy Robinson has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Services said. The CPS said that they've authorised the Metropolitan Police to charge Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who's 42, with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men. He'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 5th of June. GB News can exclusively reveal that more than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far. That total breaks the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on the 15th of April. It takes the total for the year so far to more than 13,300. That comes as 2 migrants died off the northern coast of France overnight while trying to cross the English Channel into Britain. Another breaking update this afternoon, Britain and its allies, including the United States, have issued an advisory warning of a Russian state-sponsored cyber campaign. A statement from the Director of Operations at Britain's National Cyber Security Centre said that, quote, this malicious campaign by Russia's military intelligence service presents a serious risk to targeted organisations, including those involved in the delivery of assistance to Ukraine. The Cyber Centre issued the advisory to both public and private organisations, alongside several other European countries, as well as the US. Britain has pledged £4 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza today, as Minister for Development Jenny Chapman visits the region. The latest development comes as the UK suspended trade talks with Israel and imposed sanctions on West Bank settlers as tensions rise with Netanyahu's government. Foreign Secretary David Lammy condemned Israel's renewed offensive in Gaza and called the 11-week aid on the 11-week aid blockade as cruel and indefensible. Israel's ambassador has been summoned to the Foreign Office for urgent talks. And to the economy, where UK inflation has jumped to 3.5%, the highest level since January, after a wave of April price hikes on energy, water, council tax and broadband. Chancellor Rachel Reeves admitted her policies have consequences, but defended tax hikes and spending decisions, saying they're vital to stabilising the economy. She said money raised from national insurance and non-dom reforms is now helping to cut NHS waiting times. But the Shadow Chancellor says Labour's damaging tax rises are pushing up prices and hitting families hard. Economists warn that the Bank of England may now slow down future interest rate cuts. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin in Westminster.
Thank you, Katie Bowen. Well, has Sir Keir Starmer today been forced into the ultimate embarrassing U-turn? Well, at Prime Minister's questions earlier today, he all but confirmed that he will now be reversing his government's cuts to the winter fuel allowance. Here it is.
Recognise that people are still feeling the pressure of the cost of living crisis, including pensioners. And as the economy improves, we want to make sure people feel those improvements in their days as their lives go forward. And that is why we want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments. As you would expect, Mr. Speaker, we will only make decisions we can afford. That is why we will look at that as part of a fiscal event.
Astonishing jeers from the opposition, gasps from his own ministers. The U-turn perhaps nobody saw coming. Well, I'm joined now in the studio in Westminster with the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, and GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Chris, I'll come first to you. An incredible response there. Nobody really saw this coming except the voters on the doorsteps in the by-elections and the council elections. Anybody could have told the Prime Minister this was a terrible idea. It seemed it took him longer than the rest of us to wake up to that. But today, reality seems to bite.
That's right. The fox was in the henhouse with that announcement. Announcement now to a Labour MP who now asked the question in the first place, Sarah Owen, and then everyone had to react quickly. Kevin Bader had some questions. She had to adjust those when she asked Sir Keir Starmer what on earth was going on. But we'll wait and see. It looks like they're going to try and lift this threshold from £11,809 upwards, trying to include more pensioners. But how that works, we'll wait and see. But the reaction has come swift and very quickly. We hear now from Kevin Badenoch.
It's very frustrating listening to the Prime Minister, who never answered a question on this every week when I asked him about the winter fuel payment, suddenly now realising that he's made a horrible mistake. But is he going to do it on time? That's the new question we need to ask. So what I would like to see is him setting out the details and doing so early, because we can't wait until the budget. By then it'll be too late. If he's waiting until the budget, it means that people are going to lose their winter fuel payment for another year.
OK, Kevin Badenoch there, making clear that if you wait until the autumn budget, it's too cold then. You have to do it in July or summer to allow time for it to bed in by the winter. Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, he had this to say.
Well, it's clear that Labour is in trouble. They have made some very silly decisions, in my view, whether it's winter fuel payment, whether it's the job tax, whether it's the family farm tax, whether they're the reforms to PIP, the benefits, which are going to hit carers, an issue I raised in the House today. So I'm really concerned that the government has just lost its way, and I'm not surprised they're thinking of some U-turns. They really ought to.
Well, a huge amount of reaction already, and I'm joined in the studio by the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride. Mel, thank you for popping in to see us in Westminster. A sharp intake of breath in chamber. What's your reaction to what seems like an astonishing U-turn?
Yeah, I mean, this is a cruel farce, this whole thing. Because Labour, if you remember, made it very clear they were never going to go for our pensioners. None of this appeared in their manifesto. And yet, early on, they made this move to remove from 10 million pensioners their winter fuel payment, including, of those living below the poverty line, 80% of them losing that payment. So it's hit them really hard. And how it's taken them all this time to finally work out that they need to U-turn all this is an interesting question. You've got to suggest it's political pressure. And it's what happened in the local elections. They're running scared. Their backbenchers are giving them a lot of pressure as well. And they've suddenly decided to do this. But this rush to do this now, of course, throws up many other questions. You know, is it going to be backdated to those that lost it last time around? How is this threshold going to work? Are they going to be able to get this change in time to even help those pensioners this winter, given that there are lots of computer systems and technology and lots of clever things that need to happen at the DWP now to get these payments out to people?
A lot of people will be saying, Mel Stride, well, hang on, I thought there was a £22 billion black hole. I thought we had to make tough decisions because of the 14 years of Conservative chaos. And yet there seems to have been a great giveaway to multiple billions to train drivers, to NHS workers, to unions, carbon capture, to the Chagos Islands, to Ukraine, you name it. Where is the money coming from? Will they try and spin this? Oh, we've done these amazing deals with the United States, with India, and that's where... Has the economic picture changed, or is this just sheer desperation?
Well, that's what they'll have you believe. So we've had a recent growth number that's a little bit more optimistic than some of the other stuff that we've seen recently. But the fundamentals of the economy are in a terrible state at the moment. This is a government that talked down the economy when it came into power, including this fictitious £22 billion black hole that the OBR themselves have completely debunked. They slapped huge taxes on businesses, national insurance, something they also said they weren't going to do before the election, spent a lot of money, borrowed a lot of money, raised inflation, interest rates have been higher for longer as a consequence, and a knock-on consequence of that is that the national debt that they're constantly adding to, the cost of servicing that has now risen to $100 billion a year. That's twice what we spend on defence. And that's why Rachel Reeves blew all her headroom from the autumn budget, has repaired it at great cost in the spring, and will probably have to try and repair it again. The fundamentals of this economy are not the reason why this government has run against the political pressures they faced and taken this U-turn decision.
Will you restore this benefit to all pensioners if you win power?
So Chris, I'm not going to write a budget for my party 4.5 years before a general election, but we have always been very clear that as Conservatives, we stand up for our elderly. I'm very proud of the fact that under Conservative governments, we drove down pensioner poverty quite dramatically. It was the fourth highest across the whole of Europe under the last.
Why not say now that you'd restore?
Because I'm not going to, on that issue of tax and spending and many others, I'm not going to box us in 4.5 years before a general election. But look, when it comes to the values that we're looking at here, we are a party that stand up for elderly people. We appreciate the fact that many of them are vulnerable. We appreciate the fact that many of them cannot change their economic circumstances easily because they're not in work and so on. And we have a moral duty to stand up for them. And our manifesto was very clear in the last election. We were not going to do anything to change the winter fuel payment.
OK, Mel Stride, thank you very much. Please stick with us, because we're now joined by the former Labour MP and Minister Jeff Hoon. Jeff, welcome to the show. No matter how you window dress this, Jeff, this is an astonishing climb down. The entire Labour Party talks very, very tough on this. We have to make difficult decisions to fill the black hole, they said, until we got battered at the by-elections.
Well, we've discussed Keir Starmer's personality on a number of previous occasions, and I have always said to you that he is eminently pragmatic. This is a man who takes decisions according to what is required, not necessarily as a result of some ideological fixation. So he's taken a practical, pragmatic decision because the country needed it.
Practical and pragmatic is one way of spinning it. Another one is the realisation that political annihilation awaits a party that pursues a policy they adamantly and vehemently said they would never do in opposition. It's a blatant U-turn.
Well, political decisions are part of what government has to do. They have to recognise the strong feeling in the country, emphasise, as you rightly pointed out, in the by-election and in local elections. He's reacted in a sensible, pragmatic way to deal with the problem, and he's dealt with it.
So when you make a pragmatic decision like this, when you're in government, do you honestly expect the electorate to go, oh, yeah, great, we forgive the fact you made a terrible decision before, you change your mind now, no problem, we'll vote for you again? Do you think the electorate are mugs?
I actually think most of the people affected by this will look at this and say, we're pleased that the government have thought again. I don't think it's any bad thing for a government to go over ground and reconsider decisions that have been taken, and that's essentially what has happened. And I think people will appreciate the fact that the government have thought again.
So where's the money magically come from? We were told there was this endless black hole. By the way, it grew by a multiple of about fourfold by the billions that the Labour Party have thrown to foreign countries, to Somalia, to Ukraine, carbon capture abroad, endless pet projects to their union buddies. There was never any money in the pot for pensioners. That was resolutely clear. Now all of a sudden there is. Where's the Wonga come from? Won the lottery?
Keir Starmer made clear today in the House that this would be paid back on an affordable basis, and that obviously depends on the state of the economy at the time when the decision is taken, because I recognise there are a number of practical issues that will have to be addressed. What group of people will receive the payment in future? The clarity of the previous decision obviously will now have to be changed, and that means looking afresh at how many people should benefit from the winter fuel allowance, and that's not going to be entirely straightforward. But as the Prime Minister said, it will be based on what is affordable for the country at the time.
But Jeff Hoon, we were also told it would be too bureaucratic, too complicated, too expensive, too time-consuming to do any of that, to means test. We were told it wasn't possible. That's why these difficult decisions had to be made. And once again, it suddenly is possible.
Well, there are a number of models. It seems to me, for example, that the approach that's been taken for child benefit for the well-off is an area that might be looked at. I could see having a situation where, for example, all of those in receipt of the state pension but not paying high rates of tax might be eligible. I mean, that's simply my idea. I'm sure there are far cleverer people in the Treasury who are looking this today. But it is important that a substantial number of extra people should benefit. If that is not the case, then unfortunately, this change in position won't have the desired effect in terms of encouraging people to recognise that the government have thought again. So it is a challenge, and I agree actually with Mel Stride that it's important that this is done this year. I don't think the government can go through the winter without actually having a policy in place.
OK, thank you very much for joining us. That's the former Labour MP and Minister Jeff Hoon. Mel Stride, come back to you in the studio there. Mr Hoon was saying this is a sensible and pragmatic decision, the kind of decision a Prime Minister should take. And as a consequence of that, the electorate will understand that this is the right thing to do. They'll forgive and they'll forget.
Marty, I think most people will see through all of this. He's faced a lot of pressure. He's had some political losses in the country, and he's now reacted by U-turning on this policy. This policy that the Labour leader of the House of Commons told us at the time was so important that if Labour didn't do it, there could be a run on the pound. I mean, quite an extraordinary statement to make. Now suddenly it's all achievable. The problems are, question, are they going to now pay back that money to those people that missed it last time round, that are still with us? Are they going to get it in for next winter? We don't know. What is the threshold that they're going to be applying under this new mechanism? We have no idea. Where is the money going to come from to fund this U-turn? They haven't got a clue. And that really is just not good enough. So I don't think the public are going to look at this and think this is measured, sensible, principled policy. They're going to think it's a panicked U-turn with a lot of unanswered questions.
OK, thank you very much for joining us in the studio, Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. And, of course, sorry I didn't have time to get to you, Nigel Nelson, but you are here for the rest of the show. And, of course, Chris Hope, excellent as ever. Thank you all. Now, coming up, an astonishing 828 migrants have crossed the Channel legally today, marking a new daily record for the year. And we'll also bring some astonishing, shocking, exclusive footage from our man Mark White of one Somalian's travelogue across several safe countries to end up in Hotel Britannia, where the drinks are free and paid for by you. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back now. More than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today. A record day for the year so far. And this total smashes the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on April the 15th. Well, it's an incredible landmark once again been smashed. And to bring us up to speed, I'm joined by GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White. And as well as the figures, Mark, you got some incredible video footage that will leave GB News viewers pulling their hair out. But first, to the figures.
Well, indeed, and before we even get to the figures, something else I think that will have our audience incandescent is news that the flotilla of small boats marking the Dunkirk anniversary, 66 small boats as part of that Operation Dynamo commemoration, were forced to divert, we're told today, because of this the border force vessels escorting, I should say, these small boats over from France. So that flotilla had to hold up basically and wait for that migrant boat to be escorted past them before they could continue on their journey to the other side of France, of course, where they are going to be for the 85th anniversary of the Dunkirk evacuation. So understandably, I'm sure there will be a lot of people very, very angry at that commemoration being disrupted in this way. But this is the daily routine of what we're seeing coming across the English Channel anytime the weather improves. And today we've got a 3-day window that began this morning, allowing these migrant boats to come across in very significant numbers. You're looking at exclusive video that we've obtained, shot on behalf of the people smugglers and being pumped out around the world to tell other migrants to come to chance their arm to get across the English Channel. And you can see from the video thousands of people making their way towards the coast, towards the dunes, to meet up with the people smugglers and the boats to take them across the channel. And as you said in your introduction there, Martin, 828 migrants made that illegal journey today. That is a record so far this year. It wallops the last record of 705 set just back in April, on the 15th of April. And it's going to get worse as the year progresses, because we're still in a period of unpredictable weather. But once we get to the truly flat, calm conditions that can last for weeks on end, we will see 1,000 a day easily crossing the channel. But 828 crossing at this point in the year is very significant. We want to show you, Martin, some other video that really just documents one particular migrant, this Somali man. And he highlights the number of countries that he's gone through in his way to getting to the UK.
It would have been really useful to have just had a quick...
Starting off in but then heading to a number of other countries in Africa before going up to North Africa, heading over Libya, and then in Libya taking that dilapidated fishing vessel, as that tends to be the mode of transport they use to get over the Mediterranean, to Italy, probably one of the Italian islands like Lampedusa. From there he goes to Switzerland, and then Switzerland crosses into France, and then in France makes his way to the northern shore of France with a view to getting on a small boat. And here is another clip of video, this time showing him on that boat. And does he make it to the UK? Well, yes, he does, because we can show you the next piece of video that is him and a friend sitting outside the new hotel. So that Somali migrant who arrived in recent days, now being supplemented in terms of the totals crossing by another 828. Such a massive number of escorts that were underway in the middle of the channel that it delayed the passage of those small boats, celebrating a very different passage across the English Channel, a time that this country is rightly proud of, when such endeavour was implemented to save more than 300,000 members of the British military on the other side of the English Channel. This time the commemoration of that held up briefly, but nonetheless disrupted.
Mark, I'm trying my very, very best to keep my composure. I heard that story in real time. You broke that story to me in real time about the Dunkirk flotilla. I feel like I've been punched. I honestly feel like I've been punched in the stomach. To interrupt something of such historic, national and patriotic importance, a totemic moment of vanquishing the Nazis, of survival in our darkest hour, of using the channel as an escape route from genuine terror to get to the safety of Britain, to rebuild. I feel like I'm going to cry. I honestly feel like I'm going to cry. To get back to Britain, to rebuild, to vanquish the Nazis. That commemoration being interrupted today because these bloody boats are in the channel and we're rescuing them. Our taxpayers are paying for this. And that service being interrupted and desecrated. Mark, why?
Listen, I can understand your anger and deep frustration at this. I think that will be felt by many people right across the country, because what those boats are commemorating was a period in our history that we could very rightly look back upon with great pride about what happened in the English Channel. Now what we look at in the English Channel on a daily basis are scenes that make people the very opposite of proud, that make people ashamed and very concerned about what is happening with the circumvention of our borders by people breaking into the UK, and of course many of them then going on to claim asylum. But you know, juxtapose the two positions and you can understand that of course people are going to be quite upset at hearing that news from the English Channel today.
Yeah, and look, I have to apologise for my language there, my outburst. I'm just a human. This is very, very upsetting. The significance of this cannot and should not be lost on us, I think. How long does this go on before people just say enough is enough? How long before the politicians are going to actually do something about this? How long can this rhetoric continue, Mark White? How many more of these videos can you keep sending? You send them to me day after day after day. They're laughing at us.
Well, you know, I'd love to give you some good news, but I don't have some good news for you, because I can tell you that as we move towards those flat cam days, the numbers crossing the Channel will increase very significantly, as sure as night follows day. The job of smashing the gangs, it's underway, we're told, by the government, but it's clearly a very protracted process, and whether it will ever actually produce the kind of results that the government wants to see is a moot point, up for discussion. But there's no doubt in the months ahead we will see many, many more crossing the English Channel.
OK, Mark White, thank you. Thanks again, mate. Cheers. OK, back to some other news while I keep my composure. President Trump is to meet with the South African president. I think we have some live pictures. Apologies for the beep. That is that famous door now. How many world leaders have been going around the block in the Beast, that car, as they approach that world-famous doorway? Donald Trump will be inside. The US Marines will soon come out with the state flags to give the full welcome to the South African president. Now, this could be a simply incredible meeting. It could be up there with that explosive drama we saw with Volodymyr Zelensky, because Cyril Ramaphosa, beg your pardon, who's the South African president. A huge conversation is going on about potential genocide of white farmers in South Africa by an uprising of the black community. So much so, 59 white Afrikaner farmers have been resettled into the United States as refugees. It's a huge political conversation in America, and it's about to land when the president of South Africa meets the president of the United States in a short while time. We'll cross live for that when it happens. But now, with no further ado, it's your headlines, and here's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. Your top stories this hour. The Prime Minister has signalled a major U-turn on winter fuel payments for pensioners. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs that the government is now reassessing the cuts it made last year after fierce backlash and poor local election results. He says he wants more pensioners to qualify for the allowance, calling it a key cost of living support. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has been reacting to the announcement this afternoon, saying the Prime Minister is feeling political pressure.
Well, it was inevitable. We knew this was a bad decision right from the get-go. We told the Prime Minister that in July. Conservatives have been telling him we kept the winter fuel payment for 14 years. How is it that he is letting it go? It's making pensioners vulnerable, facing a lot of hardship, and now it looks like he is U-turning, but we don't know the details. Why is he doing this now? It's because he's feeling political pressure. He should have listened to all of those elderly people and pensioners who were on the winter fuel payment who told him this was a cruel decision.
Breaking update this afternoon, Tommy Robinson has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against two men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Services said. The CPS say that they've authorised the Metropolitan Police to charge Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, who's 42, with harassment causing fear of violence against two men. He'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 5th of June. GB News can exclusively reveal that more than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far. That total breaks the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on the 15th of April. It takes the total for the year so far to more than 13,300. That comes as 2 migrants died off the coast of northern France last night while they tried to cross the English Channel into Britain. And Britain and its allies, including the United States, have issued an advisory warning of a Russian state-sponsored cyber campaign. A statement from the Director of Operations at Britain's National Cybersecurity Centre said that, quote, this malicious campaign by Russia's military intelligence service presents a serious risk to targeted organisations, including those involved in the delivery of assistance to Ukraine. The Cyber Centre issued the advisory to both public and private organisations, alongside several other European countries, as well as the US. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3437 and €1.1848. The price of gold is £2,454.94 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 8,791 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again, this is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is looking fine for many of us, we do have some very wet weather to come this weekend. Before all that, we do still have some hefty showers across southern parts at the moment. The feature that brought some of the earlier rain has now pushed away towards the south, but nonetheless, there are still some fairly frequent showers to watch out for as we go through into this evening. Some could be heavy across southern areas. Otherwise, it's looking largely dry as we go overnight, but a relatively weak cold front is pushing its way southwards. That's going to bring a swathe of more cloud across particularly eastern parts, and some outbreaks of rain likely to be mixed in with this. Away from that cloudier zone, some clearer skies allowing for things to turn a bit fresh. Could see some pockets of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a touch of frost in some parts of Scotland. But starting off then tomorrow, a bright sunny picture for much of the south, a different theme from what we woke up to this morning. Across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud and a little bit of rain here, a bit more cloud as well across Northern Ireland compared to this morning. But for much of northern England and large chunks of Scotland, a generally fine start to the day, albeit a few showers possible towards Aberdeenshire, which are going to be brought down on a bit of a brisk northerly wind. Then as we go through the day, the cloudier zone across some central eastern parts shifts a little bit further southwards, so skies in the south perhaps turning a bit more grey as we go into the afternoon, and a few showers may bubble up as well. Elsewhere, lots of fine weather on offer again, but with fresher air feeding its way in, temperatures are going to be down quite a few degrees compared to today. More fine weather for many of us as we go through tomorrow evening, just towards the south, a bit more cloud lingering here, but even that's going to clear away as we go overnight and into Friday. Then Friday's looking like a fine day for many of us, but some rain is then going to push in later on, and that does bring a rather wet and blustery weekend for most. Bye-bye.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound junction 18 exit slip to the A804 is closed due to roadworks. Follow the diversion and prepare for delays. The A470 from Pontypridd to Upper Boat is closed. The M65 eastbound at junction 2 in Lancashire is congested, adding 10 minutes to your journey. All lanes on the A449 southbound between the A5 and M54 in Staffordshire are closed due to a spillage. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway report disruption between Runcorn, Warrington, Bank and Crewe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time is 4:41. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now let's cross live now to Washington, D.C., because they are waiting the South African president to arrive, going through those fated doors there that many world leaders have gone through. Cyril Ramaphosa, he is the South African president, and this visit has the potential to be quite a powder keg. And the reason for that is there's a huge political conversation going on in America, because Donald Trump said, I believe on the 12th of May, that white farmers are being killed in what he called a genocide in South Africa. The landless people, some of the black population, he alleges, have been turning on the Afrikaner white farmers and have been killing them, murdering them and stealing their land. And Donald Trump and his team have been alleging that the political powers that be in South Africa have simply been turning a blind eye. In fact, there are allegations that historically this may have been whipped up by the ruling class in South Africa. This is a huge story. We're at a huge moment, and that president of South Africa is about to go through that door to face Donald Trump. This situation has become such a political hot potato in America. Get this, 59 white Afrikaner farmers have been granted asylum, the right to resettle in America. And this has become a huge political comment. And I think, do we have a comment? We've got a video, actually, of Donald Trump saying these comments last week. Let's take a listen.
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
That is the backdrop that awaits the South African president. You can see there's state flags ceremonially either side of that historic doorway, the stars and stripes and the flag of South Africa. The political backdrop to this meeting could not be more febrile. It could not be more on a knife edge. The very notion that white people can be granted political asylum because of genocide from a black country such as South Africa has caused the liberal media in the United States to go into absolute meltdown. You seriously look into this story, it's incredibly divided America. Those on the Democratic liberal side of the spectrum saying it's ridiculous, the notion that white people can be persecuted. A lot of people are actually saying it's not even happening. If it is happening, it's happening in tiny numbers. But Nigel Nelson, this is quite the backdrop to what could be an extremely noteworthy and potentially volatile meeting.
It could be very fraught, this meeting. I mean, what Cyril Ramaphosa says is that Donald Trump has completely misunderstood what is going on in South Africa. Now, whether that's true or not, well, we don't know, but certainly both of them come from completely different sides on this. What it comes down to is the Land Expropriation Act, which Ramaphosa passed back in January. And if you believe the South Africans, it's a bit like compulsory purchase. You want to build a major infrastructure, you compulsory purchase the land. If you believe some of the white farmers, they get the land taken away from them without any compensation. Ramaphosa...
State-sponsored theft of land that they've maintained for generations.
That's right. That is what they're arguing. What Ramaphosa says about the so-called genocide is that some farmers have indeed been killed, but not by the government, because there's a high crime rate in South Africa. White farmers as well as black farmers have suffered because of that.
But the political landscape is, as you say, that reparatory taking back of land owned by white people, specifically because they're white, to be given back to the government, which is run by Ramaphosa, is a huge political powder keg. That conversation, I guarantee, is going to come up in the White House. You will not want to miss it. We'll be there live. In the meantime, if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some pretty heavy rain affecting some typical holiday hotspots at the moment, for example, across northern France into Italy, Austria, Croatia, as well as many other countries in that area. We're seeing some heavy rain leading to the risk of some flooding, even some intense thunderstorms as well. Further west, a bit drier across many parts of western Spain into Portugal, but some showers affecting the Canary Islands. Even some more changeable weather to come as we head towards the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Eve, very good morning. You commentate on this. This is your subject. What do you think? Why is this happening? Because we're sitting now, I'm at a stage now where all my kids are growing up, whatever. I don't have to face this thing anymore. But I'm suddenly stopping and going, what? What am I paying this for? Why are we paying this? Why is this going to 750 schools and not all schools?
So this is a pilot run by the Department for Education to look at how this programme can work. It was a manifesto commitment from the Labour Party at the last election, and they're very keen to roll this out nationally, but they're doing this pilot for a short period until July to see how they can do this effectively to ensure that it meets the most children. So really, that's a kind of sensible way of rolling out what is quite a big programme.
It's important to do the pilots and study it and see who it helps and who it doesn't and how expensive it could be if it's rolled out
getting the money
nationally.
to pay for this?
Well, exactly. What do they say about that, Eve? I mean, where are they going to get the money to pay for it?
So they've committed to 30 million towards it. To be honest, we're in a situation as a country where 1/4 of primary school teachers are saying that they regularly spend their own money on feeding kids. That cannot be right. We know that we've got a child poverty problem in this country, and I think it's a reasonably good use of taxpayers' money to be spending it on ensuring that children go to school and they are fed and able to learn.
Well, I just look and I think the basic primary parental responsibility is to look after your children, to feed your children. And I sit and scratch my head and say, of all the things that we can do as parents, all the things we can spend money on, are you telling me that you can't give your kid a bit of toast and a cup of tea in the morning?
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It is 10 to 5 and you're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, government sources have told GB News that Britain will sign the Chagos deal with Mauritius this week, as Mauritius are set to gain sovereignty of the Chagos Islands. And this deal, we believe, will be signed tomorrow, which is the final day of this parliamentary term. A little bit of last order business, which could cause huge controversy. And let's speak now with GB News reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, the deal is set to go through. What do we know in terms of the detail?
Well, Martin, government sources in Whitehall have told GB News last night that they were saying that this deal would be signed tomorrow, on Thursday, in a virtual manner, because the Mauritian Prime Minister won't be in London this week. Now, this information might come as a bit of a surprise to the political establishment, because over the weekend, Downing Street sources were briefing out in the media that the Chagos deal had been put on hold due to an expected backlash from Labour MPs and also from voters amid concerns about welfare cuts. There were some political worries, Martin, that at the same time that they would be cutting benefits and welfare and various other measures, that they would also be giving up to £90 million a year to Mauritius in order to cede the sovereignty of the islands. Well, a government spokesman has always said that the deal with the Chagos Islands, and the negotiation of which started under the last government, is vital for securing the security of the military base on that location, in particular, not just for the airbase, but also for its crucial intelligence gathering capabilities. And while the Foreign Office haven't commented on timeframes, they did tell me last night that the deal is progressing. But Whitehall sources told GB News that that deal will be signed tomorrow, a highly controversial deal, with the opposition describing it as an example of national surrender. The Shadow Foreign Secretary, Priti Patel, yesterday saying that it was the move of a feeble government, but the Labour front bench, they've regularly defended this deal, saying not only that the negotiations were started under the Conservatives, but that only a deal with Mauritius would ensure that Britain and the United States can continue to operate their military and intelligence capabilities from the Indian Ocean territory.
And of course, yesterday, Charlie Peters, the story was Vladimir Putin cozying up to Mauritius, hovering around. I mean, time and time again, people have asked the question, where is the strategic national interest, common sense, and even doing this deal at all?
Yeah, Martin, so much criticism for this deal since it was been mooted, even when it was first being proposed under the Conservatives from within Tory backbench ranks as well. Precisely for that point, because as it stands, with Britain having sovereignty of those islands, there is that additional level of security, that capability to control who not only goes onto the island, but who might go near it, the maritime borders and also the air borders. But if the sovereignty were to change to Mauritius, and they are cozying up not only to Russia, Martin, but also to China, critics of this proposed deal, which GB News understands will be signed tomorrow, they say that this will allow both Beijing and Moscow to get closer to a really key location for Western intelligence gathering.
OK, thank you, Charlie Peters, on that excellent update. All eyes on that Chagos deal tomorrow. Now, all eyes for now are on the White House, because Donald Trump expecting to welcome the South African president any moment now, Cyril Ramaphosa. What could be an explosive meeting against a political backdrop of severance of aid to South Africa and accusations of anti-white racism and genocide against farmers. This is one you will not want to miss. Stick with us. Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's News Channel. Now it's your weather with Alex.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. This is your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. Whilst tomorrow is looking fine for many of us, we do have some very wet weather to come this weekend. Before all that, we do still have some hefty showers across southern parts at the moment. The feature that brought some of the earlier rain has now pushed away towards the south, but nonetheless, there are still some fairly frequent showers to watch out for as we go through into this evening. Some could be heavy across southern areas. Otherwise, it's looking largely dry as we go overnight, but a relatively weak cold front is pushing its way southwards. That's going to bring a swathe of more cloud across particularly eastern parts, and some outbreaks of rain likely to be mixed in with this. Away from that cloudier zone, some clearer skies allowing for things to turn a bit fresh. Could see some pockets of mist and fog first thing tomorrow morning, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a touch of frost in some parts of Scotland. But starting off then tomorrow, a bright sunny picture for much of the south, a different theme from what we woke up to this morning. Across central eastern parts, a bit more cloud and a little bit of rain here, a bit more cloud as well across Northern Ireland compared to this morning. But for much of northern England and large chunks of Scotland, a generally fine start to the day, albeit a few showers possible towards Aberdeenshire, which are going to be brought down on a bit of a brisk northerly wind. Then as we go through the day, the cloudier zone across some central eastern parts shifts a little bit further southwards, so skies in the south perhaps turning a bit more grey as we go into the afternoon, and a few showers may bubble up as well. Elsewhere, lots of fine weather on offer again, but with fresher air feeding its way in, temperatures are going to be down quite a few degrees compared to today. More fine weather for many of us as we go through tomorrow evening, just towards the south, a bit more cloud lingering here, but even that's going to clear away as we go overnight and into Friday. Then Friday's looking like a fine day for many of us, but some rain is then going to push in later on, and that does bring a rather wet and blustery weekend for most. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Motorists should expect disruptions today. The M8 eastbound junction, 18 exits slip to the A804 is closed due to roadworks. Follow the diversion. The A470 southbound between Pontypridd and Upperboat is closed for maintenance, with diversions in place. In Leeds, all lanes are closed on the M1 northbound entry slip at junction 46 after a road incident. An accident in Nottingham has closed one lane on the A453 southbound. And on the trains, major disruptions affect Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway services between Runcorn, Warrington Bank Quay and Crewe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Coming up on today's show,
We want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payment.
Yes, after a massive nationwide backlash from 10 million pensioners, a hammering at the local elections, today Sir Keir Starmer hinted at a dramatic U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Sensible or desperate? On today's show, I'll speak with ministers, MPs and British pensioners to ask them, will it be enough to resurrect the Labour Party's fortunes? And also on the show today,
white farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Brace yourselves, live pictures there from Washington, D.C. at the White House, because shortly Donald Trump will welcome the South African president to the White House in what could be the most dramatic visit since that Volodymyr Zelensky car crash. Why? Because as you just heard there, Donald Trump has accused the South African regime of being complicit in a genocide, killing white farmers. Also, millions of dollars of aid has been withheld from South Africa due to what Elon Musk is calling anti-white policies. This has all the foundations to be an absolute classic. Stay tuned. We'll be live in DC in time for kickoff. And meanwhile, will the government U-turn on this policy?
The way to make it work is to smash the gangs that are running the vile trade.
Yes, because today, 828 more immigrants have crossed the channel, a daily record for the year, and we'll be bringing you some exclusive, shocking footage. News in as well that an illegal dinghy rescue got in the way of an historic Dunkirk flotilla boat display. Incredible news. And in a complete change of gear, is this a really bad idea? A £2 million inclusive traffic roundabout, which puts cyclists and pedestrians first, is so confusing that the local county council in Hemel Hempstead have had to publish a tutorial on how to use the damn thing. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. There's a desecration in the English Channel as a reenactment of that historic escape from Dunkirk has been interrupted by a border force craft saving a dinghy, an illegal dinghy packed with migrants in the Channel. It meant that that historic display had to be diverted. I learned about this in the past hour. I found it almost impossible to contain my frustration at what have we become as a country. And in a short while in Washington, D.C., the South African president about to face Donald Trump. That could be an explosive meeting. There's been huge amount of criticism from the Trump regime. Elon Musk, don't forget, born in South Africa, accusing the South African regime of anti-white racism, as 59 white Afrikaner farmers have been granted asylum status in America to escape the hordes of black people killing them, according to Donald Trump, in allegations flatly denied by the South African president, who's about to go through that historic door. It could all kick off, and we'll be there live. Get in touch usual ways, gbnews.com/your say. But now it's your headlines, and here's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. It's 4 minutes past 5, your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has signalled a major U-turn on winter fuel payments for pensioners. Sir Keir Starmer told MPs that the government is now reassessing the cuts it made last year after fierce backlash and poor local election results. He says he wants more pensioners to qualify for the allowance, calling it a key cost of living support. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch has been reacting to the announcement this afternoon, saying the Prime Minister is feeling the political pressure.
It was inevitable. We knew this was a bad decision right from the get-go. We told the Prime Minister that in July. Conservatives have been telling him we kept the winter fuel payment for 14 years. How is it that he is letting it go? It's making pensioners vulnerable, facing a lot of hardship, and now it looks like he is...
Well, let's go live to the White House, where President Trump is meeting with the South African president. South African government said that the visit would be a chance to reset the strategic relationship between the two countries. The US government recently accepted 59 white South Africans as refugees after claiming that the Afrikaans minority is facing a genocide in the country. That's something that the South African government denies. In March, South African ambassador visited the US, and we'll bring you more of those pictures shortly. Well, back to winter fuel payment cuts. More than 9 million pensioners lost out on payments after Chancellor Rachel Reeves tightened eligibility last year. The Prime Minister confirmed changes are being considered, including raising the eligibility threshold.
As the economy improves, we want to take measures that will impact on people's lives, and therefore we will look at the threshold, but that will have to be part of a fiscal event.
Another breaking update this afternoon. Tommy Robinson has been charged with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men in August last year, the Crown Prosecution Service has said. The CPS say that they've authorised the Metropolitan Police to charge Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who's 42, with harassment causing fear of violence against 2 men. He'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 5th of June. GB News can exclusively reveal that more than 800 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel today, a record day for the year so far. That total breaks the previous one-day record for the year when 705 migrants made the illegal journey on the 15th of April. It takes the total for the year so far to more than 13,300. That comes as 2 migrants died off the northern coast of France overnight while trying to cross the English Channel into Britain. Britain and its allies, including the United States, have issued an advisory warning of a Russian state-sponsored cyber campaign. A statement from the Director of Operations at Britain's National Cybersecurity Centre said that, quote, this malicious campaign by Russia's military intelligence service presents a serious risk to targeted organisations, including those involved in the delivery of assistance to Ukraine. The Cyber Centre issued the advisory to both public and private organisations, alongside several other European countries, as well as the US. Britain has pledged £4 million in humanitarian aid to Gaza today, as Minister for Development Jenny Chapman visits the region. The latest development comes as the UK suspended trade talks with Israel and imposed sanctions on West Bank settlers as tensions rise with Netanyahu's government. Foreign Secretary David Lammy condemned Israel's renewed offensive in Gaza and called the 11-week blockade on aid as cruel and indefensible. Israel's ambassador has been summoned to the Foreign Office for urgent talks. And UK inflation has risen to 3.5%, the highest level since January, after a wave of April price hikes on energy, water, council tax and broadband. Chancellor Rachel Reeves admitted her policies have consequences, but defended tax hikes and spending decisions, saying they're vital to stabilising the economy. She said money raised from national insurance and non-dom reforms is now helping to cut NHS waiting times. But the Shadow Chancellor says Labour's damaging tax rises are pushing up prices and hitting families hard. Economists warn the Bank of England may now slow down future interest rate cuts. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin.
Thank you, Katie. And as Katie just said there, President Trump is now hosting the South African president at the White House. Pictures here from a short moment ago. That is Donald Trump receiving the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. There it is, the beast. That car pulls up. How many people have got out of that and stepped into a fate unknown inside that Oval Office? And as world leaders have had some car crashes, Volodymyr Zelensky, there is Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, as I've been saying, for those who have just tuned in, this is an incredibly complex and potentially volatile situation here, because Elon Musk, don't forget, born in South Africa, very, very condemnatory of the South African regime, saying they are anti-white. Donald Trump himself saying farmers have been killed. 59 white Afrikaner farmers given asylum status in America to escape. That's the conversation that's about to happen in there. When it happens, we will be live. It could be simply sensational. You will not want to go anywhere. But let's get back now to domestic politics in Britain, not without its own dramas, because could Sir Keir Starmer have been forced into a massive, embarrassing U-turn earlier today? Because at PMQs earlier, he all but confirmed that he will be reversing his government's cuts to the winter fuel payment.
recognise that people are still feeling the pressure of the cost of living crisis, including pensioners. And as the economy improves, we want to make sure people feel those improvements in their days as their lives go forward. And that is why we want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payment. As you would expect, Mr. Speaker, we will only make decisions we can afford. That is why we will look at that as part of a fiscal event.
Many seeing this as a huge climb down to a policy that went down, it has to be said, very, very badly on the doorsteps, and many say cost the Labour Party dearly at the local elections and possibly even the Runcorn by-election. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor Chris Hope and also by our senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Gentlemen, welcome. We had Mel Stride in the studio earlier, of course, the Shadow Chancellor. Very, very condemnatory, saying a total capitulation, a complete and utter U-turn. Of course, he would say that, but it has caused a huge, huge reaction, Chris.
We don't know if it's a complete U-turn or a partial U-turn. We don't know what's going to happen yet, whether they lift the level at which you can apply for this winter fuel allowance by lifting the means testing threshold from £11,000 or so, or whether it's a complete U-turn, as you say. Either way, it was a planned announcement. Sarah Owen, the Labour MP, asked a question. Keir Starmer gave the answer. It appeared to catch all of the other leaders a bit discombobulated. Kevin Baden appeared not to pick up what had been announced, even though we had heard it in the press gallery. And Ed Davey asked about a full return of this winter fuel payment. But after PMQs, we heard from both those two, Ed Davey and also, first of all, Kevin Badenoch.
It's very frustrating listening to the Prime Minister, who never answered a question on this every week when I asked him about the winter fuel payment, suddenly now realising that he's made a horrible mistake. But is he going to do it on time? That's the new question we need to ask. So what I would like to see is him setting out the details and doing so early, because we can't wait until the budget. By then it'll be too late. If he's waiting until the budget, it means that people are going to lose their winter fuel payment for another year.
Well, it's clear that Labour is in trouble. They have made some very silly decisions, in my view, whether it's winter fuel payment, whether it's the job tax, whether it's the family farm tax, whether they're the reforms to PIP, the benefits, which are going to hit carers, an issue I raised in the House today. So I'm really concerned that the government has just lost its way, and I'm not surprised they're thinking of some U-turns. They really ought to.
Yeah, lost its way. He means by that, of course, Ed Davey, that when you start U-turning on one thing, why not U-turn on other stuff that's unpopular? And let me tell you, the left are going to be targeting these benefit cuts and more to come, probably in the budget. The budget, of course, is when we expect this to be announced and confirmed by the government. But will they want to wait that long? Because by the budget, October, November time, we're getting stuck into winter. By then, the payments are due, I think, in the third week of November from memory last time. You won't have enough time to adjust the policy. So will this actually happen like in July, like last year, not wait until the autumn?
So much to talk about here. Let's start with, where's the money coming from? We were told the £22 billion black hole had been left by 14 years of Conservative chaos. Well, there have been, in my estimation, about 70 billions spent by the Labour Party since they got into power. £9 billion on public sector pay rises, carbon capture schemes, £22 billion, £12 billion in overseas farming aid. Ukraine, the list is endless. We were told this was the toughest cut of all to make, despite the fact they all campaigned against it in opposition, but it had to be made because the biscuit tin was empty. Where's the money suddenly come from?
Well, Lucy Powell, who's the leader of the House of Commons now, said at the time that it was to prevent a run on the pound. Well, last thing I looked, the pound's pretty strong against the dollar after all these tariffs, so that hasn't happened. I think, plenty of people in the Treasury from the Tory side will tell you this was always offered up as a thing to cut, and they stood against it, along with the family farm tax, as it's known. So, question marks why on earth it happened, and will, in fact, tinkering with the thresholds give you the benefit politically you need to get. The timing, of course, is driven by the May the 1st by-election in Runcorn Helsby, lost by the Labour Party, 14,000 majority, won by 4 votes by Reform, and, of course, hemorrhaging council seats for the Labour Party. They had to do something. By tomorrow night, Labour, all MPs are on a 10-day holiday. This is meant to send them away with a spring in their steps to meet their constituents. We'll wait and see.
Nigel Nelson, why did it take a drubbing at the local elections and losing a crucial by-election in the Labour Party's 16th safest seat. For the Labour Party to understand what millions, 10 million pensioners told them all along was a terrible idea, which trade unions, which many of the Labour Party's own backbenchers, although lest we forget that voting record will always be there. Every single Labour Party MP voted to kill the winter fuel allowance or abstained. And yet here we are now, forced into a U-turn, which many people just read as pure political desperation.
Well, I mean, certainly it's a last-minute decision because we haven't got any details, as Chris has just said. But I think Keir Starmer realised that this whole thing was turning into Labour's poll tax. It wasn't going to go away. This was something that people resented so much that they wouldn't forget about it in a year's time, which is why he's decided to do what he's doing. What is interesting is that we don't have any detail. Normally an announcement like this, you'd be telling us who's going to benefit and how much it'll cost and how you're going to do it.
Clear as mud.
We've got none of that.
Clear as mud. And isn't that the point, Chris? It's like, is the plan that this is, OK, we've listened, we've taken the temperature of the nation, we've been pragmatic, we've been sensible, we're going to make a concession, we got it wrong, and let's go back to where we were before? Or they're going to do what they said they couldn't do all along, which was means test. It was too bureaucratic, too expensive, too confusing. The devil's in the detail. Frankly, we haven't got any detail.
Even more expensive, because by means testing it, you invite pensioners to sign up to other benefits which come with the new winter fuel payment. So, in fact, there was an argument to say that when the final analysis will show by means testing it, it's more costly. You haven't seen it's costing you more money than giving it to everybody. So why does Rod Stewart get it? You know, why does your parents or your dad, or why would he get it, for example, or other parents? You know, when they may not require, well, not your family, but others may not. Well, pop stars wouldn't demand it, for example, wouldn't want it. So why is that the case? Well, arguably, it's how it works. But the political, and for Nigel, I wonder, what would you do? Would you mess around with the thresholds or just wipe it clean?
No, I think the only way of doing it, you're absolutely right, is how you do it. I think that if you want to save as much money as possible, what he'll do is anybody who's paying tax will end up losing the amount. So in other words, where it stands at 11,500 now, the cut-off point, that'll go up £1,000 to the personal allowance point. That would be the easiest thing. I think you should have taxed it that way in the first place. Big question, though, is where do you get the 1.5 billion this was going to raise? If you tax it, and even with top-rate taxpayers paying it, very rich pensioners, you're still looking at about 300 million. So Rachel Reeves is a long way off that 1.5.
Well, perhaps I went down Jeremy Corbyn's allotment and dug up one of his magic money trees. I mean, seriously, they were telling us that we were potless, days ago. Suddenly we're not.
Well, they oversold it last summer. All the gloom and doom and gloom was oversold by Labour. They messed it up and really got the act together this year, I think.
All right, well, let's see how it's going down in the real world. Because I'm now joined by GBNews viewer and pensioner Fergus McKelland. Fergus, welcome to the show. You'll have been listening to us there. We're all aghast. We're all clueless, as it were. But then again, so are the people who announced it. I want to know from your personal perspective, Fergus, I'm afraid we have to interrupt. We're just about to have fun with you, but President Trump is now hosting the South African president at the White House. We must go live to that. A hugely anticipated event, of course, as we said, against this massive backdrop of political tension between the two nations. Donald Trump speaking now.
Great honor to be with the President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and he is a man who is certainly in some circles really respected, other circles a little bit less respected, like all of us, in all fairness, like all of us.
We all like that.
We also have a few of my friends. Ernie Els, a great golfer. He's a truly great golfer. And Retief Goosen, who's another really, we call him really a great golfer too, Ernie, right? You two guys are fantastic. And we could add Gary to the group, Gary Player. What a group of golfers South Africa's had.
Yes.
There must be something in the water, right? It's something good. These two guys are unbelievable.
It's the water, sir.
Yeah, Gary's Gary. And David Frost, also another one that I know is such a great one. Was he as good a putter as they say, David? He's a putter. He's a putting machine, right?
Absolutely.
But he's another one. So something very good about South Africa in golf, and golf is still doing great in South Africa. And they have young players, I hear, coming up that are going to be very good. but it's an honor to have you here. And my friend, it's an honor to have you, one of the greatest businessmen in South Africa and long beyond. Thank you for being here. It's a very, very great honor. Appreciate it. So we're going to be discussing certain things. As you know, we have the G20 is going to South Africa. When is that going to be?
In November.
In November.
And thereafter, I hand over to you. And
yes, we have it next.
You originated the G20, so I'll hand over the baton to you, and then you lead the G20 in the world.
We're going to have it the following year.
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing many things, and some of the things you've been reading about in the papers and the media. And I would say that, look, the president is a truly respected man in many, many circles, and in some circles he's considered a little controversial. But we're going to be discussing some of the things that are taking place in South Africa and see if we can help. And we want to help. And we've had a long relationship with South Africa. I have, because indirectly I have so many friends that live there. I have a lot of friends. I mean, these are famous guys, but I have a lot of friends that live there that are tremendous people. And we'll be discussing that. We'll have a nice conversation. And I really appreciate that you guys came along. It really helps us in our thought process. But it is a great honor to have you, and I appreciate you called. He called. I don't know where he got my number, but I picked up. He said, I want to come over and see you. And that was my honor, and thank you very much for being here.
You're most welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming us to this reformed White House. I've been here before, and it looks really fantastic. I must congratulate you.
Thank you.
But I also thank you for allowing our delegation. This is a very mixed delegation that you've got. We've got people from government, my ministers. I've got someone from the trade union movement who we really collaborate with, and from business as well, and our sporting legends. When I spoke to you, you said, yes, come along and bring Gary Player, bring Annie else, and Retief Goosen. I brought the two of them. Gary Player, I spoke to him, and he said, look, I'm getting rather on in my years, but wishes us luck in this discussion with you. So it's a real joy, and I'd also like to thank you for allowing your people to start discussions with us at the trade level. I mean, we are essentially here to reset the relationship between the United States and South Africa. We are long-standing partners in many, many ways. We've collaborated in many fields, in space issues, in energy, and in trade, and we therefore need to reset that, particularly in the light of some of the announcements that you made on trade and investment. So we want to advance more trade between the two of us, two countries, and our people now have been empowered by yourself and by myself to start engaging, and we hope that we will be able to fuel that engagement during our talks. And we also want to discuss issues that have to do with how we promote further investments in both countries. We've got about 22 companies from South Africa that have invested in the US. That's creating a number of jobs. And similarly, you've got almost 600 companies that have invested in South Africa, and some of them have been in South Africa for more than 100 years.
That's true.
So our links are really long-lasting, and we would like to recalibrate those relations between our two countries and discuss a whole range of issues, geopolitical, the work that you're doing to bring peace around the world, in Ukraine and in the Middle East. So we value that, and we are also a great contributor to peace processes that are going on around the world. And of course, we want to discuss how we can support each other. You are a much bigger economy than we are. We're just a tiny economy, but we rely on each other on a number of issues. We've got critical minerals that you want to fuel the growth of your own economy and reindustrialize. So we have that on offer, including rare earth minerals. So all that combination of opportunity and the products that we buy from you as well as what we sell to you, I believe makes up a really good and powerful relationship, which we need to strengthen, which we need to engender. And that is really what has brought us here. And we are really privileged to have, great South Africans in the mix. As you said, you'd like to see them as well. And I brought you a really fantastic golf book. Weighs 14 kilograms.
Oh, that sounds good.
And it showcases the golf courses in our country. Johan Rupert wrote preface, so did Annie Els. And I want to showcase our golf courses. You might remember when I spoke to you, and we spoke about golf, you said I should start practicing. And I've started practicing, President, so I'm ready. But let me end just the introductory remarks by thanking you. You may not recall that 5 years ago I spoke to you during the COVID period.
Right.
And it was at a time when the whole world was going through a really cathartic moment.
Right.
And we asked for assistance, and you were able to assist us with respirators, and you kept to your word, and you delivered respirators to us. We didn't have as many in our country, and it really helped to help us deal with COVID. So I'm here also to say thank you and to thank the people of America for having helped us during a really difficult time. Being the small economy that we are, we needed help from around the world. And you were there to provide that. So thank you very much.
I remember the call.
Yeah.
We sent 150 respirators. We became the respirator king. We started making them. Nobody had them. We had very few of them.
That's right.
But they were very helpful. But we sent 150, and I appreciated the letter. You wrote me a letter.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much for that. It really touched my heart after I spoke to you, and you delivered. So,
great honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Any questions, please?
Mr. President, you welcome white Afrikaner refugees here. Can you explain to Americans why it's appropriate to welcome white Afrikaners here when other refugees like Afghans, Venezuelans, Haitians have all had their protected status revoked?
Well, this is a group, NBC, that is truly fake news. They ask a lot of questions in a very pointed way. They're not questions, they're statements. We've had tremendous complaints about Africa, about other countries too, from people. They say there's a lot of bad things going on in Africa, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. When you say we don't take others, all you have to do is take a look at the southern border. We let 21 million people come through our border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. They came from all over the world. In many cases, they're criminals. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions. They come from street gangs. They're drug dealers. So don't say that we didn't take them. We take them. We're trying to get them out as fast as we can. And we're doing record business on that. And we just won a big case where we're allowed to send back hundreds of criminals to Venezuela. Just won that today in the Supreme Court. I'm happy to hear. But we do have a lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa, and that's really the purpose of the meeting, and we'll see how that turns out. But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted, and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see. But I hope we can have an explanation of that, because I know you don't want that. It's a kind of a different meeting. Normally we have meetings, we talk about trade, and we'll be talking about trade and other things. But that certainly will be a subject that comes up. Yeah. Yes, please.
Brian? Thank you very much. I'd like to get your thoughts on Letitia James. Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that the alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was her husband in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false attacks they had on here?
Well, I don't know what it is currently, but Letitia James, who's the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything. I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband, or so she chose her father, and she put it down, and she had didn't she sign in Virginia, yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General, and she did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number, which wouldn't have allowed her to qualify and scam the government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it, but I appreciate the question. Thank you very much. Yes.
Mr. President, for you to be convinced that there's no genocide.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So May 25th will be the celebration of Africa Day, which pretty much a lot of celebration will be taking place around the world, including here in the United States. What is your message to the entire African continent, African people in this important occasion?
Well, I want to see peace, and I want to see happiness. I want to see health, and you have incredible land. There's tremendous value. A lot of countries don't have that value in the land. The value you have. We have a situation. I think you probably heard about it. We've done through some very talented people help settle a war that's been raging for years, Rwanda and the Congo. And I think we've done it. Believe it or not, I think we've done it. And could you just say a few words about that, my friend?
Yes. A couple of weeks ago, the two parties signed a declaration of principles in which they agreed on the way forward. And they have both submitted draft peace agreements, and we have put together one that incorporates both of their suggestions, and we've given it to them. So we're in the process of finalizing this peace agreement. Right? Looking very good.
No, we have to thank you for even those efforts, because the African continent, particularly SADC, our Southern African Development Community, has for years been seeking to foster peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So all efforts, including those from outside the continent and inside the continent, are really worthwhile. We are removing our troops from there so that peace can then prevail in that whole area. And we hope that with the support of the international community, we will really have peace in that area. It's so vital, it's so important for the whole region.
Well, we sent our people there, and I think we did a very good job, as headed by my friend, and that was great. That was great. I mean, I'm just hearing phenomenal reports, because all I'm hearing is death, and they're chopping heads off, and it's horrible over there. And it was really brave of you to go there, and I really appreciate it. And it looks like we have something very, very substantial. We also talked about trade with them in terms of rare earth and all, but really more for it's like, if you take a look at what we just did with Pakistan and India, we settled that whole thing, and I think I settled it through trade. We're doing a big deal with India, we're doing a big deal with Pakistan, and I said, what are you guys doing? Somebody had to be the last one to shoot. But the shooting was getting worse and worse, bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper into the countries. And we spoke to them, and I hate to say we got it settled, and then 2 days later, something happens, and they say it's Trump's fault. But Pakistan has got some excellent people and some really good, a great leader. And India is my friend, Modi. And he's a
mutual friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I called them both, and we just did something good. We're trying to settle Russia, Ukraine. We spoke with President Putin for 2.5 hours the day before yesterday. I think we made a lot of progress, but that's a bloodbath. 5,000 people are being killed a week, 5,000 soldiers a week, not including people in cities and towns that are also being killed. So we're trying to help. And it doesn't affect us. It's not our people. It's not our soldiers. It's not our It's Ukraine and it's Russia, but if we can save 5,000 souls, we'll do it. You know, we're pretty good at it. But that's a bad situation. That is a really bad situation.
Well, you'll recall when President Zelensky was coming to South Africa, that's when I spoke to you.
That's right.
We both agreed that we need to push the peace message so that there can really be peace. And we've been involved in the Ukraine-Russia conflict for quite a while. Through my Minister of State Security here, we've been dealing with them, the exchange of children who were taken away, going through names and addresses and all that. So we've been invested in that whole process as well. And the moves that you're making are fully supported by us because we would like to see the end of that war.
It's true. I called Zelensky and they said, he's in South Africa. I said, what the hell is he doing in South Africa?
He was talking to us.
We got this one. That's a strange one. He said, what are you doing in South Africa?
Yes.
That's a strange one.
He's trying to make peace. But we're taking him, you know, we were lucky because we had the great Nelson Mandela who taught us how to create peace, to make peace. So we were imparting some of those lessons to him, some of those learnings, and I specifically mentioned to him that this is how Nelson Mandela taught us that when you want to have a peace in a country, do it on an unconditional basis and sit down and talk. And that's precisely what I'm sure he's going to heed.
Well, we're going to see what happens with that one. It's there's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
There's a lot of death. It's a bloodbath.
It is.
I get the,
unfortunately.
I get the satellite pictures of that field, of that killing field. You never saw anything like it in your life. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that goes on, but I think we've made big progress. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No, not you. Right here. He's from South Africa. Go ahead, please.
What are you expecting on the ICJ case? Are you expecting South Africa to drop that? Is that what you're trying to do?
On which case?
The ICJ
The International
case is
Criminal Justice.
International Criminal Court.
I don't expect anything, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know. It's they've got a case. There's a lot of anger there, tremendous anger. I don't expect anything. We'll see what happens. We'll have a ruling, and who knows what the ruling is going to mean. Yeah.
On that subject of Gaza, Mr. President, are you going to be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Israel's renewed offensive there? There's been a lot of concern from European countries. The Pope has expressed concern. Are you going to be asking Prime Minister Netanyahu to tone down the offensive in Gaza to let more aid in?
Was that a question or a statement? This guy's, you never change.
Mr. President, this time, what would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our President will respond to you.
Yeah, let me,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on the quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and I have to, it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you. Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill, Namaza. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer. Pa, 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 pa.
The mayor of D-Day in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Suni will not be touched. They will be touched, no one. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Shoot to kill, Namaza. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Pa, pa, pa. Shoot to kill, Namaza. Kill the brewer, the farmer. Kill the brewer, the farmer.
I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm saying to you, was not called for the killing of white people, at least for now. I can't guarantee the future.
Yeah, but, I mean, you'd understand somebody watching that, especially as it gets shared on Twitter. They freak out. It sounds like a genocidal.
Who will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refugee in America.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. That's
we need to find out.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, you to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing, they also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that. His name is Peter something. He's a terrible reporter. Quiet.
That's my question now.
Let's go.
Thank you so much. President Trump, Anna Disaster from ENCA in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that
To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couples say that they were attacked violently. And,
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it isn't?
well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter. This is one after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
Can we get a report from President Ramaphosa,
Your
please?
reaction to those videos, Mr. President?
President Trump,
Well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left. One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land. They take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now we're going to talk about it. But this is a tremendous look. This is a story recent. These are all people that recently got killed.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are and you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people that were in office. They had one march. They had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Well, let me clarify that.
Yeah,
let me clarify that, because what you saw, the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves, political parties to adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No,
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess on a Sunday morning, they told me, to pay respect to their loved ones that were killed. Their heads chopped off, They died violently, and I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out, because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built, 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talks about after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around a table and talk about them.
Well, there are problems.
And this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, including, of course, trade matters, investment matters. So the issues that concern you as the United States,
those are all recent. Those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. Let me just add quickly, the criminality that we are experiencing in our country needs quite a lot of technological capability. And in one of our areas in South Africa, we're using US technology, which is able to, in many ways, identify where shootings are happening and all that. And I'd like to talk about that, because there is support that we can get from you as the United States to help us deal with all these acts of criminality. And that is what I believe partnership is all about. And we are here as a partner so that we can help each other whenever there are challenges. So I'd like us to discuss it, and of course outside of the media, so that we sit down and have a really good discussion that will lead to good outcomes.
Are there any other punitive measures that could be in place should you not be satisfied that South Africa is fixing some of the very bad things, in inverted commas, that you tweeted are happening?
Well, there are a lot of bad things happening in many countries, but this in particular has been very, very bad, very bad. And because of we're going to have the whole world watching in another short period of time, because you have the G20, and that's a big deal. And it seems like, I mean, I want you to look good. I don't want you to look bad.
Very good.
But we have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to come into our country because they feel they're going to be killed and their land is going to be confiscated. And you do have laws that were passed that gives you the right to confiscate land for no payment. You can take away land for no payment.
I want to clarify that, because we have a constitution. Our constitution guarantees and protects the sanctity of tenure of land ownership. And that constitution protects all South Africans with regard to land ownership. However, we do say, because we've got to deal with the past, the government, and as your government also has the right to expropriate land for public use.
And you're doing that.
And we've never really gotten underway with that. And we are going to be doing so.
You're taking people's land away
we have not.
From them. And those people in many cases are being executed. Yeah. They're being executed. And they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away, And in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land, and nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia in a smaller number. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country, and they're white farmers, and they feel that they're going to die in South Africa. And it's a bad thing. Yeah,
what can South Africa do? What concessions would you like to see them make to improve relations with the United States? Then I have one more for President Ramaphosa afterwards.
Well, you know, we just spoke about it. I got them a very, very complex machine, 150 of them. I was asked by the president if he could help, and I did that. And, you know, I have great feeling for all countries. Look, I deal with all countries, but I have a great feeling for South Africa because I have friends. I have a couple of friends, a few friends here today. I have many friends from South Africa, but many of those friends are not, they can't go back. I have Elon is from South Africa. I don't want to get Elon involved. That's all I have to do, get him into another thing. But Elon happens to be from South Africa. This is what Elon wanted. He actually came here on a different subject, sending rockets to Mars, okay? Yes. He likes that better. He likes that subject better. That's right. But Elon is from South Africa, and I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't think it's fair to him. That's right. But I will say that people are fleeing South Africa for their own safety. Their land is being confiscated, and in many cases they're being killed. And that scene of, you see how many crosses they have. Those crosses, that's a dead person in every one of them. And those trucks or cars are paying their respects to all of those dead people on a Sunday morning. That's a rough thing to explain away. And the problem we have, and the way, you know, a correct and a fair media exposes things. But we have a very corrupt media. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. What's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we're being inundated with people, with white farmers from South Africa, and it's a big problem. Marco Rubio was telling me he's never seen anything like it. The numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon. Yes, please.
I was going to say,
Brian, go.
If I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
You know, I'd like my Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from an opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you've just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural safety problem in South Africa. I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues at police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to start making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime. And it affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft. It has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers. I also want to just say this, that the two individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Nkonto Wesizwe under Mr. Zuma and the economic freedom fighters under Mr. Malema. Now the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have those people sitting in the union buildings making decisions. And that is why after 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our Parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world so that we can strengthen our hand, grow our economy, and shut the door forever on that rabble getting through the doors of the union bodies, because then South Africa's future would be...
So you denounced that type of language in the video that you saw?
Oh yes, we've always done so. As government, as my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers, kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I think, I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying, kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa. And that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia. They're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless. And they just want to get out with their life. And this is a very serious situation. And if we had a real news or real press or media, we don't have that because they won't talk about this because they're all guys like that idiot. But if we had a real press, it would be exposed. And you know, the beauty of exposing it is it's like a cleansing action. When it gets exposed, it'll get fixed. That's when it'll get fixed. But people don't talk about it. And I'll tell you who's talking about the thousands of people that are fleeing South Africa right now.
Will you discuss USAID and the devastating impact the cuts are having across the African continent?
You know, it's devastating, and hopefully a lot of people are going to start spending a lot of money. And I've talked to other nations. We want them to chip in and spend money too. And we've spent a lot. And it's a tremendous problem going on in many countries. A lot of problems going on. The United States always gets the request for money. Nobody else helps, as you know. Europe doesn't help. Europe hasn't given anything. All they do is sue our companies. You know, they sue Apple, and they sue all of our companies. Apple had to pay $17 billion on a nonsense lawsuit. Very unfair. But we're going to always be there to help.
The Afrikaner is Sherman Rice by South African Broadcasting. If this Afrikaner resettlement issue is resolved, you're going to go into a room after this, you guys are going to talk. If it is resolved, what is the potential for the future-looking relationships between the United States?
It's got to be resolved. It should be resolved. It's a little bit bad when you see a stadium with 100,000 people in it, because that means it's more than just a little movement. It's a pretty big movement in South Africa, so it has to be resolved. It'll be the end of the country if it's not.
But is there potential for the relationship moving forward?
I hope so. That's why I'm here.
In November.
I mean, I'm not here for my health. I'm here to see what it is. No, I'd like to see. I have friends. I can tell you, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, they feel so strongly they wanted to be here on behalf of South Africa, not on behalf of me. Yes. And, you know, they said, can we be here for this? Because they love the country. Ernie, do you guys want to say a couple of words? I hate to put you in this. This is tougher than sinking a 3-footer. They've sank many 3-footers.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks for the honor of being here. We've known each other a long time. We have spoken. You know, we're proud South Africans. I still have my South African passport. You know, we travel with this passport, you know, and I got my visa here. So, you know, but we want to see things get better in our home country. That's the bottom line. it's been 35 years since the transition. President Ramaphosa was right in the middle of the transition time in 1990 and before that. So it's been 35 years of ANC government. And I know there's a lot of anger, you know, through the transition. There was also a lot of stuff happening in the apartheid days. You know, we grew up in the apartheid era. But I don't think two wrongs makes a right. You know, President Mandela, when he came out of prison for all that time, didn't come out with hatred, you know, and really unified our nation through sport. You know, we won the Rugby World Cup in '95.
4 times.
We won the African Nations Cup, soccer. You know, we won some majors as golfers and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, this has been a long time coming. That's why we really wanted to meet you, meet the administration, and see our way forward, because we still want to see our country flourish. You know, we've got some great things going on. Business is getting involved with government. Farmers are getting involved in local municipalities, trying to rebuild some of the infrastructure that's been decaying for a long time. So there's a lot of coexistence going on and help from a lot of areas. But I feel we need the US to push this thing through. We've got a great ally if we can have the US. It's always been an ally of South Africa for a very long time. Even in the days of the war, you know, up in Angola, you know, you guys helped us. So very important for us to have your support and you know, get the change we need.
Where did you do that well? He might have done that even better than he plays golf, which is almost impossible. Johan, please.
Sorry, Mr. President, if you had to wind all of those tapes properly, you will see I'm the biggest target of that rabble-rouser. Number one for over 10 years, Mr. Malema. In fact, the first time I met him, he was in the youth league with that gentleman. And look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board. Ernie is right now building a house in George. I'm building 3 cottages for my grandchildren on a farm outside Graaff-Reinet. I often go to bed without locking the door. And we have a serious problem with illegal aliens who stream across the border. And if you really look at our statistics, a lot of these murders, firstly, it's unemployment and illegal aliens. And then I met Vice President Watts many years ago, the Charlie Rose show. My wife loved the book. And she reminded me this morning that you emphasized the devastation that occurs when big companies leave towns and cities, and there's a culture of dependency that develops. And I remember you discussing it. Now that's our problem. If we don't get our economy to grow, the culture of dependency and the lawlessness will increase. I've again been against apartheid all my life, and I'm their #1 target. Please just Google my name and Malema. You'll see it, sir. He marched on the farm.
But the crime is bad.
The crime is terrible, sir, but Mr. Steenhuisen won't admit to it, but he runs the Western Cape, where I live. And the biggest murder rate is in the Cape Flats. Gangs. We've got gang warfare. Like your M33, whatever these guys. We've got equivalents there, but we need your help, sir. And we need Elon technology.
Well, one of the real areas of support is really in investments. We've got to grow our economy, because through growing the economy, we're then able to create more jobs. Because crime really thrives where there is inequality and unemployment. And that is one of the reasons that has brought us here, to improve our investment relations, our trade relations, so that we can preserve the number of jobs that your companies have created in South Africa. By virtue of what we export to you, we are able to create up to 500,000 jobs in the auto industry, in the agricultural industry, and a number of other industries, mining, where we export things to you. And we also know that as South African companies invest here, you are also able to create jobs. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So our main real reason for being here is to foster trade and investment, so that we are able to grow our economy with your support, and so that we are also able to address all these societal problems, because criminality thrives when people are unemployed, when they have no other hope to eke out a living. So that is what we need to resolve. And your support, your partnership with us, is what is really going to give us a strong capability to move forward.
Excuse me, do you have anything to say? I mean, I don't want to leave you out. You know, the guy won 3 or 4 majors. 3 or 4?
No, only 2.
That's a lot. By the way, 2's a lot. A lot of tournaments you won, too. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. President Ramaphosa. I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane. And there is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer. And yeah, some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it. But it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern to try and make a living as a farmer, and at the end they, without farmers, there's no food on the plate. So we need the farmers to produce the food.
Farming, right? He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't even want to do what you're doing, right? They love farming. They don't want to leave. But it's a struggle.
Yeah, and food and fresh water is the most important thing in life. Without those 2 things you can't survive.
How is the water there?
The water is great. Obviously, all the water comes out of the borehole, out of ground for us down there. But yeah, it is a battle to get the water out sometimes when all the equipment gets stolen all the time that you're trying to get the water out.
So does your family and your brother, do they feel safe on the farm?
They live behind electric fences, try and be at night safe. But it is constant whenever you leave that something could happen. And
there's nowhere to live.
Both of them has been attacked in their houses. My mom's been attacked in her house when she was 80. So it is difficult. But the guys live a great life despite everything going on.
Something.
President Trump, I brought along the president of the largest trade union in our country, Ziggy Solosi, because she leads many workers, more than 1 million, 1.5, 2 million workers. And maybe we should give her a chance to say something, because she's come all the way to join us.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Trump, for having us, and President, for extending the invitation to us as organized labor. And I must say that we are here to support the initiative that has been made by our government with business, of course, as organized labor. We've been coming to Washington on the AGOA trade relations in the previous regime. And I think at the center of it all, for me, it is exactly what Mr. Rupert has said, the importance of us growing the economy. We have always emphasized when we were here and kept on coming and negotiating on AGOA that the 600 US companies that are based in South Africa, as you said, President Ramaphosa, 500,000 jobs will be wiped out. We need more foreign direct investment in our country. We are not just talking about those that will lose employment, but we are talking about over 40% of people that are unemployed, that have no hope of ever finding a job. And we think that, correctly, as they have said, that we need to deal with the issue of porous borders in our country, so that everyone that comes in is documented. We also need to, and I would have thought that the minister would address the issue of land expropriation and how the policy works in South Africa. Recently, President, as you were preparing to come here on the news, in, I think it was in Natal, there was a handover of farms. And white farmers were saying, we are donating the land, but also there's a willing buyer, willing seller in South Africa. So there is no expropriation without compensation. But it is a willing buyer, willing seller. And that white farmer was even saying, President, that the government is even paying more in buying the land than what the land is worth of. And I think those are the realities, President, that we must say that we need to address, of course, but also the importance of agriculture linked to AGOA. People rely on it, and I think, as Retief have said, for survival and living. But lastly, for me, President, is also the issue of the crime statistics. There is no doubt about it that we are a violent nation, for a number of reasons, and we're not condoning anything. But also, if you go into the rural areas where black majority are, you would see women, elderly, being raped, being killed, being murdered. And these are black elderly women that would be found throat slits, raped multiple times, and all of that. And the problem in South Africa, it is not necessarily about race, but it is about crime. And we think that we are here to say, how do we, both nations, work together to reset, to really talk about investment, but also help us in how we can have the technology and everything that is needed, President, to really address the levels of crime that we have in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
President Trump, genocide is a very strong word. I'm wondering if you've made up your mind as to whether you believe genocide is occurring in South Africa, or you still doubt, and if you have made up your mind, why invite President Ramaphosa here today?
Well, I haven't made up my mind. I hate to see it from the standpoint of South Africa, but also, I'm trying to save lives. I'm working with Russia and Ukraine. I don't have to do that. It's not our war. It was started by other people. It was helped along by our past administration. It would have never happened if I were president, but I'm trying to save lives. And no matter where. Rwanda, I have nothing to do with Rwanda and the Congo, but I felt I had a very talented person in this administration, and I sent him there, and he did an unbelievable job, I think. I mean, we're going to find out, but he's done the hardest part of the job. It should happen. If I can save lives, I want to save the lives. If it's in Africa, that's great. If it's in Europe, if it's wherever it may be. And it's a very small investment to do, believe me, compared to what the consequences are. So I hope we can do something. Look, I have so many friends. These two men, I have great admiration for them because I know what they do for a living. And that's a very hard living, going from city to city, from country to country, and hitting a ball 350 yards like they do.
Better than you and I.
Getting the ball in the hole. It's a very tough, with lots of people watching, right?
Yes,
That's a very tough living. You know, they're champions. I respect champions. And I respect very much, and I think the country is very lucky. They really wanted to be here.
That's true.
They could be elsewhere. They could be on a beautiful fairway someplace, and they wanted to be here.
I'm glad you brought it.
My name is Yanda Mobile from Newsroom Africa in South Africa. How important is it for the United States to be at our G20 summit in November, given the relationship between our two countries? You've just heard what has been said to you just now. Are you coming, and are you preparing to come?
So without the United States, the G20, just like the G7, used to be the G8, but brilliantly they threw Russia out. It would have been a lot better if Russia was in. You know, a lot of people would say, oh, that's not it. Because if Russia was in, you probably wouldn't have this war. And if you had a different president, you wouldn't have the war either. But we have a G7. It's important that the United States is in both of them. I think without the United States, it's I really believe it's not very important. It's not the same meaning.
As I said to President Trump, the U.S. really originated the G20. And it's important that the United States continues to play a key role in the G20. And we are privileged to be the president of the G20, but we are even overjoyed that we are going to hand over to the United States, who are the originators. And for that reason, I expect the United States to continue playing the leadership role in the G20 together with other countries. And I've said when I initially spoke to President Trump on the phone, I want him to come to South Africa for a state visit, and I also want him to come and participate in the G20. And I want to gladly hand over to President Trump to take the leadership of the G20 forward in November.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What is it going to take to convince you?
They don't want to leave.
Thank you so much.
How much do you need?
Everybody, please keep moving. Thank you. Keep moving. Thank you.
Goodness gracious me. Was I the only person there that was sitting with my popcorn? Whew, that was really quite something. Of course, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. But we were interrupted there by Donald Trump. He was at the White House. You've just been watching those scenes unfold live. That, of course, was South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. Absolutely astonishing scenes. You don't need me to tell you that relations between those two countries have been, how do we put this mildly, fraught at best. It's all, of course, been kicking off. You've had Donald Trump accusing South Africa of essentially white genocide, in particular when it comes to white farmers, basically suggesting that they have just been